Recording in progress.
Yes, I can. You saw that? Yeah. Well enough family walk. That's great. So cute. Yeah, but he just like went on.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Superior Town Council for Monday, September 22nd, 2025. Can we all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Shannon.
Mayor Mark Lasis.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Jason Serbu.
Here.
Councilmember Jen Cowish. Here. Councilmember Stephanie Miller.
Here.
Councilmember Neil Shaw.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Foster.
Here.
Councilmember Heather Craycraft.
Here.
Town Manager Matt Magley.
Here.
Town Attorney Nicholas Hartman.
Here.
All right, up next is item 1C, which is approval of the agenda. Do we have any changes that we'd like to make to the agenda? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Okay, we got a motion from Councilmember Foster,
Second.
second from Mayor Pro Tem Serbu. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. We are on to item 1D, which is our council reports. Who'd like to go first?
I'll go because mine's pretty quick.
All right.
Just wanted to thank the council and the community, everybody who came out for the Taste of Nepal. It was a really, really great event, and just wanted to let you know, because I just found out this afternoon, that the event raised about $12,775 for our sister city. So huge win, and that'll definitely be one big stride into helping them with their market. That's it for me.
Thank you, Stephanie. Heather.
Just wanted to thank the Chamber for sponsoring chat with the Chief this past weekend. Always well attended, and conversations always are robust. So I really appreciate that opportunity for us all to get involved in the community topics that they share so well and keep us educated. Also wanted to point out that there is a community blood drive this Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. At the community center. So hopefully if anyone is interested, you can get on Vigilant. I don't know how to pronounce that exactly, but their blood mobile will be there. So you can book ahead, or drop-ins are welcome. And obviously it's always in need. So lastly, I attended our historical commission on Friday, and they're very excited to be planning the next round of second grade field trips. So many of us in the community had children do this long time ago, and it continues. So I just wanted to thank them for their efforts, and thank the mayor for making his schedule available to help with that. So that's all I got.
I will go and say I have no updates.
Thanks, Neil. Jen?
Yeah, thanks. I want to start by saying Happy New Year to the Jewish community and celebrating. I also want to talk about something that we're not really following at a town level, but just for Marshall Fire survivors. A lot of folks are preparing to talk to their lawyers about potential settlements. The case is starting this week, right? I think the 25th is when the trial actually starts. Excuse me, but for those of you that aren't aware, there's a federal tax law that was amended at the end of last year that would allow any settlements received by fire survivors to keep all of the money versus paying taxes on the money as if it were income. So that's going to be expiring on December 31st. So it's a really terrible timing for our community just going into this trial. But I do want to remind folks, one, there's advocacy happening at a broad level to get that extended, and we expect that to happen. It's just this administration, I don't really know what that's going to look like. So I want to remind folks that you have 3 years to amend your taxes. So just don't be short-sighted in accepting settlements under fear that you won't be able to recover that money later. And I'll keep you updated on the work that's being done. So I've reached out to Senator Hickenlooper and Bennett, as well as Congressman Neguse and all of the state senators. And right now, I think Kyle, excuse me, Representative Brown is trying to figure out how to draft something from a state level to ensure that there's no taxation on those funds as well. So just know that people are staying ahead of this and trying to make sure that you get to keep all the money that you should so rightfully keep in any kind of settlement. So I think that's it for me.
Thanks, Jen. Mike, do you have anything? Jason?
Nothing to report.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Good to see you all. Couple things to report. I also went to chat with the chief this past Saturday, and one of the focuses that Sergeant Solomon was talking about was e-motorcycles, e-bikes. That's a big kind of issue of the day. One of the things that he impressed upon the group is that there's going to be increased enforcement actions coming from the Boulder County Sheriff's Office. One of the things that we're trying to do here is really get the word out and communicate to the public so people understand what they actually have in their garage, what they've given to their kids. Kind of the line between what's a permissible e-bike and what's a e-motorcycle, an e-dirt bike, or an e-low-power scooter is the speeds that they go and then the wattage of the motor. So if you have something that's over 750 watts, if it can go over 28 miles an hour, you need to be at least 16 years old to ride that. You need to have a driver's license and a motorcycle endorsement. You need to register that vehicle, and you need to carry insurance. Failure to do so it's already against the law. It's not a municipal ordinance, but this is a Colorado state law. And the Boulder County Sheriff's Office is going to be stepping up their enforcement. They're going to be reaching out to the school district to do some educational opportunities with the students there that are riding their motor vehicles to school. But they're also going to be stepping up their enforcement. And if your child is on one of these illegal motor vehicles, you're going to get the ticket as well for allowing your child to ride a illegal vehicle. So, I mean, it's basically the same thing. If you're giving your 13-year-old the keys to your car, everybody would agree that that is a reckless thing to do as parents. But that's exactly what we're doing with these e-motorcycles that are just running rampant. So illegal riders can expect to receive fines for not carrying insurance, $500 pop. For the second offense, it's going to be a doubling of your fines. If you're riding with multiple passengers, evading officers, riding on sidewalks and trails, all of that is also illegal and will result in additional penalties. So my ask for all of you is if your kid has an e-bike, check out what type of e-bike they actually have. If they're under 16, they can only ride the Class 1 or Class 2 e-bikes. If they're riding a Class 3 bike, they need to be 16 years old. If they're riding an e-motorcycle, an e-low-powered scooter, an e-dirt bike, they also need to be 16, licensed. They've got to have registration, insurance, the whole 9 yards. So please, enforcement needs to start at home. We don't want to have a situation where we've got a serious injury or a fatality caused from these kids operating these vehicles recklessly, because we would never give the keys to our car or a motorcycle to these kids before they're licensed, before they've taken driver's ed. These kids don't know the rules of the road. They don't understand how to safely operate because they're not licensed. And I don't fault them for that. I fault us, the parents that are enabling this behavior. So we need to really step up the parenting here and make sure that we're keeping our kids and the streets safe. And that's all I have. We're going to open up public comment. You can come on up. Town manager.
Nothing to report. Thanks.
Town attorney.
Nothing.
Sorry, clerk. All right, we're on to public comment tonight. On our consent agenda, presentations and non-agenda items, we take public comment first come, first serve. We've got a sign-in sheet there on the desk. You can give your first and last name and the town in which you reside. If you're participating via Zoom, just use the raise hand feature and we will call on you in the order in which you raise your hand. If you're here for the public comment tonight on the Town 15 rezoning, we ask that you just hold your comments until we get to that portion of the agenda so it can be considered within the public record. We take public comment for usually 5 minutes per person, but given the amount of people that we have tonight, I'm going to be reducing that to 3 minutes per person, both for public comment now and then also during the public hearing later tonight. So anybody signed up for regular public comment?
I don't have any non-agenda, but I will note I have a Town 15 specific sign-up sheet, and I only have about 4 people. So if you want to sign up for Town 15, you can come up and do that, which is a little unique. So I got Brad.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. Brad Walker, Town Superior. I've got some comments tonight, obviously. Unfortunately, they're not well prepared, which I really hate presenting my comments that aren't well prepared. So indulge me a little bit if I get things a little wrong. I know that one of the members of the town board sent me an email a few weeks ago. I've made a comment about a mistake or misinformation about airport stuff, and I thought about this quite a bit before I wasn't going to say anything, but I kind of thought about this quite a bit. When you say things to me like you need to stay in your legal lanes, or the fact that I got removed from my federal lawsuit, my firearms lawsuit against the town, and you say things to me like, when your comments are snide towards me, I generally perceive them as lacking leadership and the fact that you can't provide an opposing point of view. And frankly, to be honest with you, I sued the town in federal court over the firearms lawsuit, and I got dropped from the case. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I never did this based on emotion. I did it based on principle. And at the end of the day, the judge didn't dismiss the firearms lawsuit. He just dismissed me. So, no harm, no foul. You still got the firearms lawsuit that you have to deal with. I would like to, I think some people have reached out to me, and I think it's important that I publicly apologize to Mr. Jardin. Some of my comments have been a little bit harsh, and I don't take that. My comments are not meant to be personal. But when I send a core request, I expect my information. And when I don't get my information and I get what I perceive as legal mumbo jumbo, unfortunately, you're going to be the one that gets the brunt of that. So please know that that's not coming from me personally. It's that I have no other conduit. I can't go over here and yell at the young Turk sitting next to Boss Hogg. And obviously, the town members aren't going to do anything. So unfortunately, as the town clerk, you're going to get those comments. But at the end of the day, I do want my information. I submitted a lawful request asking for information. And in my world, when I ask for information that I know that Mark Laces has, because I heard that he was talking to Mr. Serbu, and I know it exists. When you tell me it doesn't exist, I've got a problem. And unfortunately, it seems like you're going to be the one that gets the brunt of that. So just know that it's not personal. It's just doing business. I want my information. And on that note, I think that...
If you can wrap it up, Brad.
Sure. On that note, again, it's nothing personal. So leave the comments there, but I am not going to back away from pursuing my core request. So have a good night, everyone.
Next. Is that it? Okay. Anybody on Zoom? Michelle Gazarek?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you. Good evening, council members, neighbors, and friends. This week, the world has eyes on Climate Week NYC, a gathering of leaders, thinkers, and communities who are working toward one goal, creating a future that is livable, sustainable, and just. But climate action is not just for New York or any far off stage. It's for us right here in Superior. Every decision we make, whether it's how we build, how we manage our waste, or how we come together as a community, can strengthen our resilience in the face of changing climate. When we talk about designing for resilience, we're not just talking about electric vehicles or solar panels, although those matter. We're talking about designing neighborhoods where people know each other, where systems support each other, and where we use resources wisely instead of wasting them. That brings me to one of the simplest, most powerful climate solutions we can adopt: composting. Every apple core, coffee grind, eggshell, every leaf raked from our yards is either a problem or a solution. If it goes into a landfill, it creates methane, a greenhouse gas far more potent than carbon dioxide. But if we compost it, it becomes nourishment for our soil, a tool for water retention, and a symbol that we take responsibility for what we consume. Composting is climate action that any household can do, and when a town supports it, the impact multiplies. And speaking of multiplying impact, our community has a chance to gather, to celebrate, and to fundraise at the BBQ this Saturday, sponsored by the Friends of Coal Creek. It's more than just good fun and food. It's a way to support pollinator health, local resilience, and climate solutions right here at home. Bees are small, but their work sustains us. In the same way, each of us, through small daily actions, can sustain the whole. So tonight, I ask this council to see the connections. Climate Week NYC is global, but resilience is local. Composting is simple, but its impact profound. And the BBQ is just one Saturday, but it represents the joy and unity we need to fuel this moment for years to come. Together, let's build a town that isn't waiting for someone else to act, because resilience begins here for us. For those watching in the audience, I want to invite any neighbors to join our advisory committee for environmental sustainability, also known as ACES. We have 3 openings, and look into the sustainability newsletter for how to submit your name. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else on Zoom like to give public comment? All right, seeing none, public comment is closed. And next up on our agenda is the consent agenda. So I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Got a motion from Councilmember Shaw.
Second.
Second from Councilmember Foster. And we'll do a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Councilmember Foster,
Yes.
Councilmember Craycraft,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Serbu,
Yes.
Mayor Lasis,
Yes.
Councilmember Shaw,
Yes.
Councilmember Cowish.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. All right, we're on to item number 5, which is our public hearing on the Rock Creek Plan Development Amendment and Town 15 rezoning ordinance. Do we have proof of publication? Yes. I'll gavel in the public hearing.
I am going to make you do this, but you tabled it last time, so you need the vote to take it off the table, and then you can gavel in the public hearing.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to
Take it off
lift the table.
Pick it up off the table.
Pick it up off the table. All right. So moved.
Second.
All right, we got a motion from Mayor Lasis and a second from Councilmember Miller. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Serbu,
Yes.
Councilmember Shaw,
Yes.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Councilmember Cowish,
Yes.
Councilmember Craycraft,
Yes.
Councilmember Foster,
Yes.
Mayor Lasis.
Yes. All right, passes unanimously. Now I will gavel in the public hearing on the PD amendment and Town 15 rezoning ordinance.
Thanks, Mayor. Renee is going to, she's got a short presentation for the council, and then we will open it up for questions and comments.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Renee Stavros, Planning and Building Director for the town. And, that was easy. I just wanted to go through a couple of slides really quickly, reintroduce the property that I'm sure you all know at this point, but the property is currently zoned in the Rock Creek PD as CAC. It's a community area classification for commercial. To the west is Boulder County Agriculture and Open Space. To the south is the Calmonte open space and Calmonte PD residential development. To the southeast is Rock Creek open space, part of Community Park, and to the northeast is the Rock Creek PD residential area. Currently allowed uses in the Community Activity Center designation include all of these uses here, and similar development standards to other areas within town. 40% building coverage, maximum height of 60 feet, and a minimum of 20% open space. To the proposed rezoning application calls for this property to be rezoned to open space and recreational district, which allows utilities, parks, restoration, reclamation, natural habitat, flood control improvements, and unpaved maintenance roads. It also allows under conditional review all of these recreational opportunities for the town to take advantage of in the future. Those would be applications that would be brought to the Planning Commission and the council for review at the time that those would be proposed. The table also outlines, setbacks and height requirements and floor area ratios and things like that for developing in the open space recreation district. The town of Superior purchased Town 15 from Richmond Homes for $1.2 million, and we used general fund reserve to purchase the property. It provided the town with ownership and a strategic piece of property, and allowed us, possible development in the future. And then we did have to use general fund reserves in order to purchase the property. Part of the Town 15 rezone memo, we looked at scenarios for Town 15, and then at the previous meeting, we expanded that to all of the open space, or not open space, I'm sorry, opportunity zones in the comprehensive plan. So this is the fiscal impact and economic impact scenario summaries for Town 15 specific. Scenario 1 is for the development of 58 single-family residential homes on the property. And scenario 2 was a mixed-use development of 50 apartments and 7,500 square feet of retail space. Since the last meeting, we put together an appendices to the staff memo that we wrote and went through 2 scenarios for each of the opportunity zones and looked at the existing uses and zoning on each of the properties. And then also scenario 2, potentially land use development for those properties based on recommended uses in the upcoming comprehensive plan, and development proposals that we've had in the past for those parcels. And that is all I have for you this evening as an update. If you have questions on any of this information, or you want me to go back and review anything, I am here for questions.
Thank you, Renee. I have a couple questions. So can we talk about the setback requirements, and specifically, so this isn't in the presentation, but I was just kind of curious, the current CAC zoning setback requirements and how they compare to the proposed open space R setback requirements?
Sure. So the R setback requirements here are 50 feet to front yard setbacks, depending on what the development proposal would be. The front could be, you would replat this property, so a front, side, and rear yard setbacks would be based on however the reconfigured lots would look. If you just were developing it kind of as it is today, I think you would probably consider Colton Road the front setback. It's usually the shorter the shorter length of a parcel. So if a parcel is rectangular-ish in nature, it's the shorter side that would be considered the front, and then the longer side is the side. So if you're just looking at it as it is today, Colton would be kind of the front area, and then McCaslin would be the side, and then the park would be the other side. So this would require a 50-foot front setback and 25-foot side setback and 30-foot rear setback. Current zoning, I wish I had it on me. I believe is, I'm going to have to look back at it. I don't want to quote something incorrectly, but it's less than 50 feet for a front setback and also less than 25 feet for a side setback. I know it's less. I don't know how much less.
Okay.
I apologize.
And then, so the CAC, there was a slide there about the site coverage, is that right?
Yeah.
So kind of explain to me what that means from a kind of maximum developable area as it currently sits as a CAC zoned parcel.
So if you had a development that came in that was wanting to build buildings, the maximum building coverage of 40% is specific to anything roofed. So it would cover a primary structure and any accessory structures that have roofs. So we don't count cement or drive aisles or sidewalks as lot coverage from the building coverage perspective. The 20% open space, we do count some of those areas. We don't count roadways, but we count like a sidewalk area or parks or landscaped lawn areas as open space. I don't know that, it's hard to, without a like actual development proposal where there's buildings and reconfigured lots, typically like on a 15-acre lot, you're going to subdivide the property and create a scenario where you dedicate a certain area as open space and then you develop on the remainder of those lots. And on the developed lots, you may or may not see, you know, the 20% open space and 40% building lot coverage. We would typically require the 40% lot coverage and 20% to be included in any developed parcels. So if you subdivided Town 15 and you created an area of open space and an area of developed area, you would still have 20% open space in that area unless we approved something otherwise in a development application. I don't know if I'm answering any of your questions. It's really difficult.
It's a fair point, and you know, right now we're dealing with this lot as a single large lot, right? And you know, in the event that it were subdivided, obviously then there would be setbacks on each of those individual lots, and then all of those development standards would apply on each of those lots.
That's right.
You know, I'm just trying to understand as the ground sits currently, you know, there's a minimum open space requirement of the 15 acres of 20%. There's a maximum building coverage of 40%.
Yep.
So, you know, some of that would that the delta between those two numbers would be sidewalks and you know, parking lots or additional, you know, grassy areas. And that's just a minimum open space requirement. It could be greater than that number.
Absolutely. I would expect on 15 acres you would have more, but that would be the maximum that you could if you were just keeping it as one lot and building a large building with parking.
Right. In terms of the allowed uses that are on the CAC designation, so it doesn't allow residential.
No.
uses right now. So it's all commercial uses and then these community uses like recreational, social, cultural activities such as churches and theaters. What are some other examples of recreational, social, cultural uses that you can think of?
Like a rec center, well, any park facility could be a recreational use. Like the community center would be something that operates like a community, like the community center does. That's not a recreation necessarily, but like has spaces for people to rent and use. I'm thinking like a YMCA type thing. It says churches. I don't know what else is a recreational use. The intent of the community activity center, though, was like more of a neighborhood scale versus a regional scale. So the Rock Creek PD does have a regional scale activity center that's for busier sites. So this was intended for neighborhood size and scale of uses. So the retail or commercial would be a smaller scale development, and then the recreational uses would be specific for residents who live in the area and aren't, it's not meant to pull from Boulder or farther away. It would be mostly for Superior residents is the intent of that zoning.
Right. Yeah, whenever we've talked about kind of RAC zoning in the past, kind of the examples that have been, where it exists within the Rock Creek PD seem to always be like near highways. So you could have like a gas station off of an interchange, a hotel, these sorts of draws where you're not necessarily drawing from the community itself. You're drawing from people traveling down the highway and they need to fill up their tank. They need to, stop off, or like a larger shopping destination, like a mall, versus, these, you go to the local bank because you need cash, right? Like, so it's a community draw.
Yeah, that was the intent in the PD when they did these zone districts and designations for community versus regional, like who they anticipated using those facilities that would get developed.
One additional question. Do you have any information about the history of when the town acquired this parcel and kind of like the circumstances related to that? I know that there are members in the public that probably will speak to this during public comment, but I'm just kind of curious as to what the lay of the land was at the time of the town's acquisition and what the town board did at that point in time.
Yeah, I do. I can add to that. So at the time, the town was having numerous discussions, conversations about recreation centers, indoor swimming pools, those type of things. And we had limited space to put any of that. We were also looking at downtown Superior and the sports stable at one time, doing a recreation space there. So the thought here was, and Richmond Homes continued to want to build homes on it and rezone it. They asked us numerous times to rezone it, and the board of trustees at that time said no. So the thought was, Richmond was ready to sell. We thought it was a good strategic acquisition at the time to give us opportunity to have land to do something like a rec center or an indoor pool or something like that, and the purchase was made at that time.
So when the town purchased it back in 2012, so Richmond owned it. It was already zoned
Commercial.
CAC under the PD.
That's
There was
correct.
no zoning change made at that point during the acquisition.
Correct.
And there was desire from the previous owner to make it residential. No appetite from the town at that point in time.
Correct.
To allow that change.
Right.
And then we acquired it.
Yep.
And at the time that we acquired it, we already had the open space sales tax passed.
We did.
On the books.
Yep.
But the town purchased it using general fund dollars.
Yeah, we decided to use general fund reserve to purchase the property, provided the most flexibility in the future for the property. If we wanted to sell it at some point in the future for development, we could still do that. If we use open space funds, we wouldn't be able to do that.
Was there any discussion at that point in time, back in 2012, about using open space dollars for the transaction?
No.
Okay. I'll let others jump in with their questions. I might have some more.
Thanks, Renee. I have a couple of questions. And this is sort of building off some of the questions that Mark had, or excuse me, the mayor had. Notwithstanding the cost to do this, in the current zoning, could a developer come in and, let's say, over excavate and build subterranean activity or a conference room or something, so as to limit height so the neighborhoods aren't impacted by building heights, or to keep within the PD zoning restrictions?
If a developer wanted to purchase the property and subdivide it and propose a building that had parking below ground and whatever above ground, or in order to maximize the area and building, there's nothing that prevents them from doing that in our code. It's cost prohibitive, but other than, but no, there's nothing that prohibits someone from building something below grade and then staying within like a 60-foot height limit.
Okay. And then at the end, in the opportunity area scenario attachment, at the end of section 1, the last sentence reads, quote, "Further analysis is needed to fully understand each property's potential," and this is referring to these properties here. What additional analysis would that entail, and how long would it take to complete that analysis?
Well, so it's a difficult question. So we took each of these properties and we took the uses that the draft comprehensive plan are considering for these properties. And then I looked through previous development proposals for each of the sites and tried to align our, recommended uses in the comprehensive plan with some development that was previously proposed for the sites, because I could, but it would take a very long time for me to come up with a development scenario that meets, the zoning or the land use recommendations for each individual site and create a development that meets all the requirements. So we used, previously proposed developments. So, if you wanted to look at legitimate possibilities, highest and best uses, these aren't necessarily, the highest and best use. Perhaps there's other higher and better uses for each of these lots. We just haven't seen them proposed in the past to provide you with something tangible to use. We also, when we go through and make these one-time revenue and ongoing revenue, we make a lot of assumptions. So there's assumptions for number of bedrooms and bathrooms in each of these residential, proposed developments that we said, let's say there's this many 2 bedrooms and this many 3-bedroom units, and we based the assumptions on, we came up with numbers so that we could put a cost to something, but there's other ways of going about that that could be more strategic if we had more time in order to consider the true developments that could take place on each of these properties, what makes sense in today's, marketplace, and maybe some of these are dated and they don't make sense anymore, or perhaps they never made sense, but we saw them and we used them. So I don't, like, the possibilities are kind of endless. I could take a year or I could take another 3 months, and, you know, depending on how much time we had, we could do more or less. But this was the best that we could in the time that we had with the information that has been presented to us.
And I appreciate all the work that's gone into this. And again, I'm just trying to understand if, you know, if we feel like, or staff feels like additional daylighting and additional analysis could be done to provide more transparency in the universe of possibilities. You know, maybe there's an opportunity to continue that conversation. But I just kind of want to get an understanding from you, from your perspective, what that additional analysis would entail and what that might look like. So
I think this gives you a pretty good idea of the one-time revenues from development and then ongoing revenues that the town could see. Like Renee said, there's multiple flexible development opportunities that could occur with each property. There could be more residential, there could be more commercial, there could be no commercial. So, but this gives you a pretty good idea, I think.
And then the next question I have, and I don't know if this is for Matt or for Renee, but can the current value of Town 15 be used as collateral against bonds or other assets?
We had the discussion in Finance Committee during the budget review. No, it could not. Yeah.
All right.
Can I just point out something that was not included in your packet that I want to highlight in this slide? This, for the Resolute property specifically, I bolded these two numbers because in your packet, I had accidentally put the same one-time revenue and ongoing revenue for both scenarios under the Resolute property. So I just so you know, I noticed that and updated it here for you all to see.
Great, thank you. And when I was reading through the memo, I noticed that the staff recommendation section sort of punted to, you know, if the council finds that this meets the test, but I'd be curious if staff has a recommendation based on your professional judgment.
I think that the proposed use makes sense for the property. I think that you could look at all kinds of other uses that also the town could potentially use this property for in the future. It's hard to know what makes sense right now because we don't have any development possibilities at the moment. So rezoning it to a use that has kind of always been what we thought might make sense for the property, it makes sense, but not doing anything also probably doesn't prohibit anything or make anything happen anytime sooner. It leaves the door open for other things, but that door has been open. So it's really up to you all.
Right. Just from my perspective, I think it doesn't make sense to rezone the property at this time. Leaves the town with options and flexibility in the future moving forward. And we could always, you know, consider rezoning at some point in the future if we determine it was necessary at the time. So, okay, that's my opinion.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
I've got one question, but before I begin, Matt, is there any way we can get an extra row of chairs for the people standing here so they don't have to be sitting the entire time? Because I know we've got plenty of... That's all the chairs we have?
Yeah.
Wow. Five more chairs.
No one's going to judge you. Oh, you want to put it back here? Yeah.
We're going to make everybody on Zoom stand.
The one, it's got mics. I think it's broken, actually. Okay, that's a little bit better, so I apologize for the one still standing. And I don't know if this is just more of a rote question, or maybe Brandon might have the answer. Do you know what the right-of-way is for McCaslin and Colton at Town 15? Is it 100 feet, 150 feet?
Don't know.
Okay, no, I can wait. I'll look it up. Thanks, I appreciate it.
Question about the comprehensive plan. So one of the things that we discussed previously before we tabled this matter was we're in the middle of a comprehensive plan update. The comprehensive plan was last updated in 2012, and the recommendation, the preferred land uses for this parcel in that comp plan says preferred land use for this site is commercial and office. Potential community-oriented uses may also be appropriate. So do we have the verbiage that is going to be in the draft comprehensive plan update that the council will be considering later this year?
Not that detail of language. We've looked at the uses. We've looked at like an open space and recreation use, and we've looked at adding housing to the site, and we've looked at maintaining this as a commercial property. The latter is like the gets the least number of votes, I suppose, if you want to, like, the way we do a comprehensive plan is we come up with scenarios, we put it out to the public, we put it out to you all for comments, and then we take those comments, we, narrow down uses, and then we put it out again, and we haven't put it out again. So the first round is, predominantly open space recreational uses that people want to see or housing. Maybe small level retail, having like the mixed use scenario that we had in here. Residential with small area, neighborhood level commercial. Got the second most, I guess, if you want to call it that. But we haven't taken it out for like the draft round, and we haven't put that type of language to it yet. That's coming probably in November, and then the final draft would be in like January time, when you would get that type of sentence, paragraph style versus just generic uses with photos and maybe some heights and densities in the next round.
But it sounds like it's not going to be the same as what's in the previous comprehensive plan.
I don't think so. The goal of this particular comprehensive plan update is to refine some of the opportunity zones and hopefully provide some more context so that development of them has a better chance when we bring it to you all in the future for development or rezoning or for site plans or whatever.
Yeah, the 2012 says preferred land use for this site is commercial and office. Potential community-oriented uses may also be appropriate.
And then getting back to like the history of the site when it was originally zoned in the PD, as I understand kind of the history of the Rock Creek development, originally back in the 1980s, when it was originally planned, it was contemplated that Rock Creek was basically going to be double its size, or it was going to move to the west, right, like out to the open space on the west side of McCaslin, and that this site would essentially be the location of where the gas station and the grocery store would be, not where Safeway currently is, but this would be the location of where the Safeway is. Then, for whatever reason, whether it was the mines, the soil conditions, or whatever, they didn't develop it to the west, and this is kind of a legacy zoning of that original plan that never
That's
materialized.
correct, yeah. It was envisioned at the time that Rock Creek would be mirrored on the west side of McCaslin. And so this would be a central kind of commercial area for all the residential that would be around it. And then prior to that happening, Boulder County and the city of Boulder came in and purchased the land as open space.
Okay. All right. Question about just how we've acquired open space in the past. Have we ever acquired any open space out of the general fund before?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And do we have funding in the open space budget currently to acquire this parcel and reimburse the general fund?
We did not at the time. The town could look at reimbursing the general fund over 10, 15 years, but it would take that long.
At what number? Are you talking about the 1.2 million or the market value of Town 15?
Oh, that's at the market value.
Okay.
And I'm assuming we can only reimburse out of the open space fund if it's open space natural, not recreation,
That's correct, yep.
We can't use the open space fund for recreational? Is that right?
That's what we had Leslie look into how open space funding can purchase property, and it specifically says that it's for open space natural use. But the charter puts open space as a general use in like a zoning category. So open space natural and open space recreational both fall into the open space category in our town charter.
Renee, do you have the Prost master plan concepts in your presentation? I know they're in the memo. I didn't remember seeing this presentation in the packet.
I took them out of this particular presentation just because
That's fine.
through it before.
Do you have that Prost master concepts in the presentation right now?
No, but I can.
Can't hear Renee or me?
Oh. I can speak closer to the microphone. Is that better? Okay, I apologize. I will lean in.
Is there any way to pull up one of those concept plans right now for the projector and, for my comments?
Yeah, give me just a second. Let me find it.
I'll just comment that this is like the most organized Windows laptop I've ever seen. This is like, what is this? Where is this?
We'll just go to the last. Nope. Why don't I have it on here? Goodness gracious. Nope. Organized until I have to find what I'm looking for.
And just for the record, the Prost master plan, that was 2021, right? Is that when that was adopted?
Yeah, it was mid 2021. Yeah. The middle of a pandemic. Well, while you're trying to find that, there's three different concepts, and I know you embedded one in the staff memo. And I think, and I was trying to tax my brain to figure out which one was like the most popular. One of them, concept 3 had some field lights, which are not a big, no one was big fans of those. But in all three concepts, there is a large amount of open space. So as I think about the conversation we just had around open space, there you go. With that one, which I think was option plan 2, no, this was option plan 1. Half of this thing is open space when it's said and done. So if we were trying to use someone else's money, in this case, taxpayers contributing into the open space fund, half of this thing is effectively open space, right? Like we could subdivide Town 15 into open space natural, open space recreation, and effectively use the OS natural funds to compensate for that, correct?
Yeah, if we subdivided it
Okay.
and zoned, the north half as open space natural, then that's a potential to use the funding for that.
If we wanted to go down that path.
If you went that direction.
Okay. Yeah, and because we went through this, and OSAC was a large contributor to this development, and at the time it was very important that the sort of animal corridor at the north was maintained And that's a lot of what, ended up there at the north on all three concepts was a big buffer at the north for the sort of natural animal corridor all the way out to Altry Park. The other part here, which is not included in the presentation, is to get to these three scenarios was a whole needs-based analysis around what parks and amenities do we have and where are we deficient, right? So what was in concept plan 2, which you don't have, was a second diamond, baseball diamond, which we only have the one at Founders Park. More pickleball courts because ours are bursting at the seams. More tennis courts because we have nothing but complaints about the lack of tennis courts. So if we went all open space natural, we couldn't do any of those things. We couldn't come back and add tennis courts, add pickleball, add spaceball, or whatever the hell the next new ball thing is going to be. But we can't do any of that, right?
Not on open space natural.
Okay.
So that's why the recreational allows that with a conditional use. It doesn't allow any of those things even with, without going through a conditional use review to allow those to take place on that.
Okay. Because as I think, if you just step back, well, I guess it's in the, right there. And I think about, the amount of active space in here is like a third, right? About half of it's open space. There's a giant parking lot, which I thought was way oversized. I don't think we need 200 parking spots, but I lost that argument. This thing could be sized down to maximize the amount of open space and still maintain these amenities that the community came out and said, we need another full-size basketball court. We need some more pickleball courts. And we do have another basketball court coming up with Central Park, but that's a half court. That's the part that everyone keeps reminding us of. But my bias here is we went through this process in 2020. We assessed what we didn't have from an amenities perspective, and that's how this ended up. And part of the nature of this development was how do you still try to maintain a large amount of open space where it backs up to neighbors and is viewable from the streets. So, but you answered my question. If we went down this path, subdivided it, we could potentially use the open space funds, and then also, yes, that was my question. All right, thank you.
I think it's a good point, Neil. If you're looking for it, Renee, on the planning and building webpage, it's under long-range planning. You can find the Prost master plan there, but it has the three concept plans there. The first concept also had a $3 to $5 million construction estimate. The second concept had a $5 to $10 million, and then the third had a 12 to 15. All kind of dependent on the amenities that were installed there. But those concepts have the open space that you're talking about there. So if we were looking at carving up the site into sub parcels, that might be one way to fund at least part of the development there, if it was going to be developed for Parks and Rec type uses with some open space natural sprinkled.
Yeah, so the one that you've got on the screen right now, that was the 3 to 5 million, and if half of that's open space, call it, say potentially 2 to 3 million from the open space fund to maintain half of that as open space, and you've got a large amount of your development dollars. Granted, these are 2021 dollars,
right,
and it may as well be $1 billion now, but well, no, the interest rates are going down, right? So it's going to be less, but yeah.
All right, additional questions for staff? I guess one question that I have, since we're contemplating open space rec uses, and that would be subject to the conditional approval of the council to approve those uses, right? Do we have any position from staff as to what amenities are lacking in the town that would be potentially located on this parcel, consistent with the
I don't think we have anybody here from Parks, but just from past discussions with staff, tennis courts, playing fields are kind of the two highest needs, and basketball courts.
From a national standards perspective, the open space natural we have a lot of, and the parks and recreation we have still, above average, but it's an area that we could use more of. So the specific Parks and Rec uses, like Matt said, Leslie is literally going to open the door right now, maybe. Hi, Leslie. Can you help us shed some light on, the question was what types of park and recreation uses are we lacking, if we are lacking any?
Good evening, Council. Leslie Clark, staff, Parks and Recreation Director. As far as lacking amenities, we do have a need for additional rectangular fields as well as baseball, softball fields. We do have competing interests out there, and folks who are not necessarily getting the time and space that they would like for those facilities in our town. When the Prost Master Plan was put together in 2021, I think they were recommending one more rectangular field, which we actually put in with Superior Commons. But we're already seeing that getting maxed out at this point. They also recommended one additional large diamond field, and I believe a small diamond field back in 2021. As Trustee Shaw mentioned, Councilmember Shaw, the pickleball and tennis are areas where we could use a couple more courts of each of those. So pickleball has become very popular. Those courts during prime time are pretty full, same with tennis. And we are kind of competing with the public by offering programs, lessons, services like that. So it's hard to meet all the needs. So we do have a need for some of those. They're maybe not as great in deficit as some other communities, but there is that need out there as our population continues to grow.
It's just an interesting thought, which really hadn't occurred to me until you brought it up tonight. Because I remember back in 2021 when we adopted the Prost Master Plan, that was a point in time where we didn't have the budget to accommodate. We had discussions about putting a pool there. We had discussion about a full-blown rec center. We've had those over the years. We never had the budget to fund any of those really significant capital improvement dollars. But if there was, if you could bifurcate the lots between open space rec and open space natural, have the open space fund the open space natural uses, and then pay back the general fund, that then frees up general fund dollars to use for open space rec purposes, which I guess we can't use open space dollars in general for.
Yeah, I looked up the open space fund language. So this is straight from code. This isn't like any real actual legal advice. The fund shall be used for paying incentives for creating and maintaining additional open space within commercial developments. Second part is this more important here: to create, enhance, or expand buffers between commercial and residential areas or main thoroughfares in residential areas, and to create, enhance, and expand wildlife corridors or any other open space acquisitions in any space related thereto. So I read that to be more natural, unless, explicitly we can make a case for recreational stuff.
Right. But if we split the parcel between the uses, right?
Yeah, it's not really tied to zoning. It's more tied to doing things on that zone.
Yeah. Just a way to stretch the budget in a way that otherwise would be difficult. Okay.
I have a follow-up question to that. Maybe this is for Leslie. This is the springboarding off the comment about additional pickleball courts and needs for that. Louisville just opened Relish, and it's been very popular, very successful. How do we know that we have enough market opportunity to make the capital investment for building pickleball courts when there's a very nice amenity a mile down the road?
mean, I think that's a good point. Pickleball is surging right now. It's very popular. Is that trend going to continue or not? You know, that's always a little bit of a guessing game. Some of those facilities are set up for a little bit different experience than maybe what you would get in a hometown court. Hometown court, you can, you know, go out there, play with your kids, play with your family, you know, local competition, versus a more commercial facility where, you know, you're paying an hourly rate to rent the court and have maybe a more competitive, highly competitive situation that's maybe not exactly that close to home experience.
And then follow up to that, you know, with the concept of baseball diamonds, softball fields, rectangular for, you know, sporting events, what's the real value of those amenities if the surrounding community doesn't want lights, outdoor lights to illuminate those fields? And does that significantly restrict the ability to have a softball league or a soccer league playing in the evenings or on weekends or into the fall?
I mean, it is much more valuable playing time. You can double, triple the playing time when you have lights on a field. However, you know, working with our user groups to monopolize those daylight hours. Obviously, more facilities allows that use to get spread out during the daylight hours. You know, I think the higher profile, more competitive games, you know, the older you get, if you get into high school or even into club sports, they like to play under the lights. I mean, that's you know, a big game experience is under the lights, but the day-to-day practice, I mean, that's what we really struggle to find field space for.
Leslie, is there an opportunity to expand where we have the current pickleball courts? Is there room for additional courts there or no?
We'd have to do some soil analysis out there. That is very, very, very close to the floodplain. And just making sure that we have room to kind of shoehorn that in without getting into the floodplain. It is a great location. It doesn't seem to irritate too many people, as some pickleball courts do. Because of the location, it works out well. We might be able to squeeze in another 2 courts, maybe, but we'd have to take a look at the site very specifically.
Okay, thank you.
I seem to recall when we approved those that we were squeezing the maximum amount of pickleball courts into that site, given the floodplain restrictions. So.
And we had people that really pushed us to build 8 or 10 because that's where the demand was already headed in 2019.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
But I think the site was just limited in what it could actually hold. It wasn't a question of really what we were willing to spend on that amenity. It was just the property itself just couldn't fit more. So. All right. Any additional questions, Jen? Looks like no. Any additional questions for staff? All right. Let's open it up for public comment. We have a sign-in sheet at the table there if you'd like to give public comment. I'm going to try to accommodate everybody tonight. I know there's a lot of people, so I'm thinking we'll do 3 minutes per person. But if there's not a whole host of people that need to speak, I'm willing to give people a little longer. So how many do we have signed up?
I have 10 signups right now.
All right.
10 signups.
If you're participating by Zoom, if you could raise your hand so we know how many people want to participate via Zoom.
12 signups.
12?
And I feel like that will probably grow.
Right.
Maybe.
Okay. We're going to keep it at 3 minutes per person.
It's targeted. No. Trisha Cheek is first while other folks start the sign up.
All right, Trisha Cheek, you're up.
Okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council and staff and Superior residents. As you know, I'm Trisha Cheek of Andrew Drive. You also know my position. Please vote yes on the rezoning of Town 15 to Open Space R. A bit of context for those residents who may not be as familiar. This is not open space natural, on which no structures are allowed. Open space recreational allows what our town planner so eloquently showed us earlier to include parks, habitat restoration, and under review, trails, information kiosk, playground, golf courses, even a veterinary clinic. This is the first civic issue that I've been actively involved with. As kids, we're taught that this is the gold standard of the American process. Accessible, friendly discourse that, especially in our local communities, can bring about real change. I have to be honest with you, this process has been anything but. It's felt secretive, derogatory, and is pitting neighborhood against neighborhood within our tiny 4 square miles. As of tonight, we have yet to hear a clear, convincing, thoughtful argument of the against position. We have also never had the benefit of hearing this body discuss the issue or state their positions. I guess we'll never know. In the absence of an against argument, let me briefly outline the for argument. Rezoning Town 15 to Open Space R supports the post-2021 master plan, the most recent governing document we have. An open space designation preserves what many consider to be the last greatest mountain view in our town. It continues the great work done at the Orman Roche Trailhead. Perhaps they could be connected someday. It allows the town to continue its use as overflow parking. Chili Fest parked at least 24 cars there just a few short weeks ago. It would also allow for future yet unforeseen such uses. 4, it preserves a wildlife corridor to the Boulder County open space across McCaslin. I personally have seen many bird species, deer, prairie dogs, rabbits, snakes, coyotes, and even elk. 5, no action or specific plans for the space need be made in the near future. Other more urgent needs, such as road repairs, can and should take precedent. This merely sets the table and finalizes the intent of this town here in 2025. And perhaps the best, there are more than 525 residents, I believe that's more than 5% of the voters, who agree and have signed an informal petition to that end. This is not just a few people being loud. This is what your constituents actually want for this space. Unless I'm greatly mistaken, you were all elected to serve the constituency and not your own opinions. Please vote yes to rezone Town 15 to open space recreational. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Michael Hirschfeld.
Good evening, council members and fellow residents. Thank you for providing the opportunity to address you this evening, the first night of Rosh Hashanah, regarding the rezoning application for Town 15. I've spoken before on the subject of rezoning Town 15 to Open Space R, and while the previous decision to table this discussion was discouraging, it has galvanized residents to unite and keep this important issue at the forefront. As I continue to engage with those in positions of authority, whether elected or volunteering their time, one question constantly arises. What are the town's residents saying about this matter? Allow me to summarize the community's perspective. Earlier this year, an open house was held where residents provided feedback, both in writing and via posted notes, expressing a clear desire for increased open space and the preservation of parks. Recently, more than 525 signatures were collected and submitted to the town, each representing an individual's request for the council to approve the proposed rezoning. At the Chili Fest event 2 weeks ago, our planning commissioners dedicated their Saturday to gathering additional input from residents. I would like to thank the Planning Commission for their ongoing commitment to our community. During the Planning Commission's call on the 16th, Renee shared the top 4 survey results from the event. Enhanced maintenance of existing parks and open spaces, expansion of open space with additional parks, utilization of existing retail space, and preservation of current town programs and amenities. At every opportunity for resident engagement, the feedback has been consistent. Our community values open space and wishes to see it expanded. The question, therefore, is not what the residents want, but whether their voices will be heard. The 7 of you on the council represent us, and we ask that you listen to the collective requests of your residents. We have demonstrated our commitment through consistent, vocal, and substantial participation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for your comments.
Heidi Jaros.
Hi, Heidi Jaros, Superior resident as well. I'm here tonight to ask you to vote yes to rezoning Town 15 to open space recreational. Many here tonight will point out the community's desire to hold this property for open space or recreational or some kind of civic use that serves the community. You will hear others say that the current zoning is fine for these purposes and that we should not change the zoning as a result. One issue that I don't think is discussed enough is that rezoning to open space recreation by voting yes tonight preserves the say of the residents of Superior in what happens to this property in the future. In other words, this vote is about more than just a parcel of land. It is about public accountability. Property can always be rezoned, but with today's current zoning, the people of Superior have little real say in what happens to that land. We are told we can give public comment, make our feelings known, but we've been doing that for a decade or more now with no fruit to show for it. On the contrary, as you will hear from others tonight, our feedback has been routinely and often disrespectfully dismissed, even as our voice has grown in numbers coming from all corners of Superior, not just the so-called NIMBYs that live near Town 15. The unelected Planning Commission is pushing for residential building on this space, despite years of community feedback clearly stating that is not a community desire. The way the property is currently zoned, that unelected Planning Commission and a handful of elected officials here on this board are the only ones with any real say or power over what happens to this land. And unfortunately, we cannot always trust the politicians to keep their word, to clearly hear the hundreds and hundreds of community voices asking for this land to be preserved for community use, specifically not building residential or commercial on the space. For example, one council member here tonight looked us in the eyes during election season and told us in no uncertain terms that he did not believe there should be any commercial or residential built on this property. Less than a year later, he's holding meetings pushing for this land to be developed as housing. This is in direct conflict with what he committed when he was asking for our votes. This is one example, and I provide it not to disparage anyone here tonight, but to demonstrate that we cannot always count on our elected officials to hear our voices and act accordingly. By rezoning this property tonight, you preserve the voice of the people of Superior in what happens to this land in the future. Specifically, a ballot measure would be required to sell or otherwise develop this land for commercial or residential use. This ensures that the people of the town truly get their voices, and not just in the format of public comment meetings like this. Many good people have many great ideas for this land. We should all have a say through our votes. I'll skip to the bottom here. I thought I had 5 minutes. I cannot think of a reason a fair-minded and dedicated public servant wouldn't do all that they can to ensure that people have the right, through their votes, to weigh in on such a significant community issue. I hope you all demonstrate your commitment to public accountability and vote yes to rezoning this property tonight.
Thank you for your comments.
Richard Ukernis.
Hello all. I want to start tonight by saying thank you to everyone. I'm one of the few that lost their home in the Marshall Fire. Now, I really appreciate you helping my family and I get back on our feet. And I'm here to support the rezoning for open space R. Thank you.
Mallory O'Toole.
Hello, I'm Mallory O'Toole, and I live in Superior. This is my first time truly engaging with this, other than joining the virtual calls and joining the community center input. I moved here last year, and when I saw the open space in my community, we did our due diligence before we bought the house to understand the future of Town 15. We reached out to the town to understand what that would look like, and we were referred to the Post Master Plan, which did say park or open space. From there, we decided, I was pregnant with my third kid, to move our family, our young family here to raise in the long term, really with open space in mind. That was the draw. That's why we're here in Superior and not in Broomfield or other areas that had less to offer when it came to open space. I also just kind of took a side note in my comments from tonight, hearing a lot about the history. And I'm sorry, I don't know your name that spoke before me, but just want to acknowledge that what isn't being talked about as much is the Marshall Fire. I wasn't here for that, but I do see that in my community constantly. And it feels like that has to be acknowledged when we're talking about the local community and its needs, not just the fiscal and economic purposes, but how to really support the community. And they've been through so much, those that still remain in Superior, and really hearing their voice specifically should be a huge part of the factor that you're considering. So overall, please support saying yes to rezoning open space rec. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Keith Greishaber, sorry, it's kind of hard to read.
Hi, I'm Keith Grieshaber, longtime resident of Superior. And yeah, I think we've all said a lot at these meetings the last year or so. So I was going to say, as a resident, I would like you to rezone to OSR. I've been here for 20 years. I was here for 2012. I was here for 2021 surveys. I was here for somebody wanting to build a high school on that land. And every time we come together as community, and it seems like it's always the same thing. We would just like it to remain, open space or community. And please don't build, buildings, do not build housing. I feel like that's where the community is kind of coming from. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Elliot Flayden.
If any of you had studied statistics or polling, you know the dangers of relying on unscientific surveys that do not have random sampling. Namely, if you go to people randomly in a park, and those people are not taken, they're not called, they're not taken in a random fashion. They're people who come up and respond. What those surveys may measure is not community support, but passion on one side for a proposal. The people here today claim to say that they have the support of the community, but they do not have a random poll or a scientific poll that backs that up. In fact, something that is a little bit more random than what was done at our community parks was recently on Facebook. The 80027, original 0027 Facebook page this weekend, 3 days ago. Someone put a post up of the construction going on in downtown Superior saying, if you do not want this to be the future of Town 15, then come speak at the next council meeting. You know what's the most popular comment in response to that post? I'll read it to you because it goes directly contrary to the messaging that is artificial that you're hearing tonight. By far the most popular comment in response, with double of any other comment was in support, was this one. We do not need more open space in this town. We have what? About a dozen parks across 700 acres and 27 to 35 miles of trails and a town that's about 4 square miles. What we need is development that is going to bring in substantial annual tax revenue along with lump sum payments for fair value for our town's land. And closing off the development and sale of a prime piece of real estate, namely the corner of McCaslin and Colton, is ridiculous in almost any situation, especially one where we are bleeding money as a town. Now, that's unless you all want to keep raising taxes on Target and Costco until they leave. I say this not because I don't want recreation in that spot. If we had unlimited resources, that's across the street from me. I live in Calmonte. I'd love to have a rec center there. But I remember coming to town council meetings here in the past year where I heard again and again how dire our financial condition was. I've heard grumblings and wonderings about how many more tax hikes it will be until Costco or Target leave this town. You just had a presentation up here a few minutes ago. Every proposal brought in tax revenue but one, open space. Open space isn't just cost neutral, it costs money to maintain. But if you develop this land, that actually brings in money, potentially, not just in lump sum, but every year. I wish things were different. I wish we had the money to put a rec center there. But I know we don't. I know we've given away too many tax breaks to too many developments, and we cannot afford this. We need annual revenue coming in, and we have open space right there, right across the street. Do something responsible, not something that purports to be popular without proving it is. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Lisa Citarella.
Thank you. I get nervous public speaking, so please deal with me. You guys were asking like what the needs of the communities were, and you know, we have stores, we have houses, but what I don't see is I am passionate about having a rec center, and I think we really could do it in a cost-neutral way if it was done correctly. I thank all of you for spending so much time and effort discussing this and thinking about it and hearing us all and taking that time. What we don't have is a four-season indoor pool. Our pools get shut down when there's lightning, can't use them in the winter, and expends that time. There was inside recreational space, like court space. Pickleball can be played there, basketball can be played there, volleyball can be played there. It's the same court for all the sports. It also makes it rentable to the outside community. This is the last property in Superior that can have a rec center that's really good. It's on a commute corridor. That means that people from the surrounding communities coming up from the south pass it. That means that they are going to bring their outside money into Superior to help fund this thing. You can put an event space on a second floor with that gorgeous mountain view that only keeps it at 2 stories versus the 4 to 6 story building height of the 60 feet that's currently planned for the commercial that would block the view. There is no, I just recently was looking for a celebration of life for event space. There's nowhere with a view. I mean, that would be, seriously, people would pay good money with a separate entrance for that view to have an event space and would still protect the residents with that view. So in a time where the private gyms costs are going up, we're at a time where we're having a lot of mental health issues, physical health issues, engaging our community, having a place that builds community, not only would save us medical dollars in the future and money spent on mental health, but it'd be such an asset. It would raise our housing property values, which therefore increases property taxes, which therefore gives a little bit of money back to the city. So I really do appreciate you listening to this, and I am for the vote that gets us a rec center. And honestly, from the zoning talk, I wasn't totally clear if open space recreation would cover that. I definitely don't think we need commercial. I definitely don't think we need 4 to 6 story high commercial. Or whether or not it has residents on top does not make a difference to me. So whatever gives us that ability to actually have a facility that supports this town. When I moved here 16 years ago, it was like, oh, we're going to have this huge recreational facility. It's going to be Junior Olympic Training Center. And then it turned, Sports Center turned from, took away the public access and the private, which is fine. And that place is rented out before it was built. We can bring money in by having the properly designed facilities that would fund itself and at least make it worthwhile on both sides. Thank you so much for hearing me out.
Thank you for your comments.
And we need a running track too.
Mark Krimpaski.
Hi. Just a quick vote to say open space. It's a beautiful plot of land. I mean, all the arguments are really good, but I think with everything that's gone in across the street, we should be covered for growth and revenue. And it's just a cool thing to leave it like Old Town, not Old Town, but like old school Superior, where it was quaint and quiet. And it's the last opportunity we have to fulfill that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Sandy Pennington.
I am just sure I heard you deed your extra time to me, right? Okay. Okay, Sandy Pennington, Micah Court, trustee from 2010 to 2018. I am your connection to the 2014 decision to acquire this property. I was I am also your connection, by the way, to the 2012 approval of the last comprehensive plan, and I'm your connection to the the visioning, the consideration, and the start of downtown Superior. So feel free to ask me any questions on those. But I'm here tonight out of grave concern for this decision. Buying a piece of property from a developer is not a typical action of the town board. My board at that time did it because we wanted control over a prime piece of property that was in play. We had received numerous proposals on it, including subpar housing developments, interest, as Matt said already, from Superior Sports Stable, interest from a church, interested from some sort of boarding house educational program. And we said this parcel located at the strategic intersection of McCaslin, a regional corridor, Colton, which goes all the way out to I-36, is something so vital and so important to this town's future that we must control it. I ask everyone here tonight to ask, what do we want this town to be next year? 5 years, 15 years, 20 years. What is it we want to be when we are fully built out? As I always ask on the board, what do we want this town to be when the town grows up? And that is still the relevant consideration. And that's why all of you fine folks are elected. You are not elected to make decisions apart from the big picture. You are elected to see the big picture and guide us through the process about becoming the town we want to become, and ensuring the financial viability in that process so we prosper. We don't have to issue sales tax increases or cut Christmas lights or do any of those things so we prosper. So tonight I ask you to take your job most seriously, and at this point in time, deny the request to convert this to open space. Stay the course that a previous board set in place for you. Let's see how the future unfolds, what new challenges emerge, and what old challenges fade away. Let's allow ourselves and our future leaders, because you may not be here anymore as we go down this stretch, to be nimble when the unexpected happens. And as that fire taught us, the unexpected will happen. Thank you for all your hard work and commitment.
Thank you for your comments and for your past service to the town.
David Noodleman.
Good evening, dear council. I stand before you tonight as one of the over 500 people who signed the petition to rezone Town 15 to open space recreation. You've heard it over and over again, and I've heard a lot of people before me saying the same thing, that this has been going on for over a decade. You keep hearing the same thing, and about it not being built up for commercial or residential. And it's fine time that you listen. Again, we have over 500 people who signed the petition. We don't want commercial, we don't want residential, including affordable housing, and this property is not conducive with that. We, the community, are telling you that we want the space rezoned to open space recreation. The majority of us have moved here because of the open space. You have the responsibility to listen to the community. And so again, my position on it is, I would appreciate it if you made a decision to rezone it, open space recreation. We can still put in still do everything that we want to do to enhance the community, and at the same time, preserve the land. That's about it. Just want to wish everybody a happy new year, Rosh Hashanah.
Thank you for your comments.
Amy Noodleman?
Hello, good evening. Thanks for listening. I agree. I'd like it to remain open space rec. I moved from Denver specifically because of the open space. If I wanted to have a city in my backyard, I already did. So I'd really like to see it preserved. And again, I want that old town feeling. I'm doing my best to support downtown Superior. It's still a little bit like empty, but I kind of feel like before we start thinking about anything more, let's get this going on, what we already have. There's so much development currently happening. I think a lot of us just feel overwhelmed to be even considering putting something there right now. A lot of traffic, haven't heard that addressed. I mean, it has definitely changed just in the few years that I've lived here. So a lot of stuff happening quickly, and I'd like to see it preserved the way it is. It's just beautiful. Thank you. And happy New Year to any of those that are celebrating.
Thank you for your comments.
Jeff Cody?
Hello, Jeff Cody, Andrew Drive. Thanks again for giving folks the opportunity to speak. I would like to obviously state my position. Please vote yes to rezone Town 15 OSR. I want to remind you of the spring, Mayor Lasis, when you urged residents to speak up in a way that we could ignore you. We appreciate that. And I also want to remind you that just about a week ago, we had Constitution Day, and my very own fifth graders spent a little time learning what democracy looks like. And so this is what democracy looks like. And it's what democracy looks like because you, through your generosity, have decided to work for the community and then been elected by your constituents. So please remember and take that job seriously. I'm going to try not to repeat things that I've said before. I just have a series of questions. As this has gone into the public hearing arena, it's been increasingly difficult to engage in any back and forth. So I just want to throw some questions at you and ask that maybe after the public comment ends and you engage in your discussion that you answer some of these questions. First, is it really the worst case scenario that we rezone Town 15 OSR and then some amazing opportunity comes along later on that we have to ask all of the town to weigh in on that? Next, if planning commission members have not been IDing themselves in town council meetings, have not identified themselves at public outreach events, and have provided false statements about fictitious lawsuits and accused citizens of conspiring, who does this serve? Is it truly a NIMBY issue if residents from every block in the town of Superior have stated their support, either with a signed letter or through a petition that they would like Town 15 rezoned open space rec? Why is the appraisal still confidential? If that was one of the key factors in the tabling of this very issue 2 months ago, 3 months ago, I've lost my place. I'm not sure how many months ago. Why is that appraisal confidential and not put forth to the public before this evening? If town council members have explicitly stated in informal conversations, and I quote, "I don't want to see any development on this Town 15 parcel for the next 10 years, why would we trust their motives if they voted in a contrary manner this evening? Is that serving themselves or their constituents?" Was my little beat for 30 seconds, 10 seconds?
You can finish your comments.
All right, I'll finish. Let me hit a couple more good ones. You heard our planning director say tonight, there could be better and higher uses that we haven't considered. If we don't rezone, are we ignoring those better and high uses? So I'll wrap up With two quick final questions. Comprehensive plan, how long will this take? And is this Town 15 issue really a part of that? And finally, again, what's the worst case scenario if we do rezone? Putting this on a ballot item, is that really so costly? Thank you again for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
Cheryl Fay crossed her name out. I just want to make sure she's not here. She did leave. Okay, I think she left. Todd H.
Hey, everybody. How we doing? Appreciate the opportunity to speak. I really just have a couple of questions, and I understand I can ask them, but you don't have to answer them, but maybe there are things to consider. I'm in support of open space. I live in Superior. Name is Todd Hurd, live in Calmonte. But I'm more concerned about development commercially or residentially. And my first question is kind of a two-parter. One, have we considered the fact that this space is in the direct flight path of the airport that we're not having success in dealing with? Does anybody care to tell me if that's been considered in the valuations or any of the assessments, or do we know? Okay. The second part of that question is it true or is it a real, I guess, FAA memo that came out just in June stating that RMMA leads the nation in airspace in the number of potential significant events? Can anyone comment if that's true? Anybody in here? Hi. No? Okay. To me, I would just make sure that's considered in all those valuations. And then I guess a third part is, and I'm a bit ignorant, perhaps people here are more educated about it, but when I look at all of the commercial downtown places, and we have an ice cream shop, and we have a cookie shop, and we have some other things, and there seems to be a lot of open space, it reminds me of a small business that tries to grow through more sales rather than through profit, okay? So I don't know the reality of the situation, but I'd encourage you to consider that if you haven't. And then let's see. I think that's it, because the only other one was about the appraisals. The question about the appraisals. I forget who asked that question. I'm hearing rumors that it would be good to squelch. I'm hearing 30 million and 6 million, and 6 million, 30 million, 6 million. And I go, what? That makes no sense to me. So that's all I wanted to comment for you to consider with regard to the commercial and the residential. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Ryan Mojo.
Thank you, Council. My name is Ryan Mojo. I'm a resident of South Rock Creek. I'm representing myself and my family here as I share my points of view tonight. I wanted to just tell you that I am against this application as it stands and much more for the mixed use scenario from the proposed plan. Mayor Lasis, you had mentioned legacy tonight and legacy zoning. Though I am, in favor of the CAC and the plans as they exist, I think that we're missing a key aspect to this. So by saying that this could be mixed use, we could have that 100 square feet of recreational space. I would love to see a science and nature destination like the WOW Museum in Lafayette. It's something that, if we have a commercial downtown, let's have a nature and science uptown, something that our neighborhoods can walk to. But what I would love to see on top of that 7,500 square foot recreation space is something that is a liken to housing that is affordable, something that would allow teachers to live in our community, to allow for a space to build middle housing that is significantly underrepresented in our community. And I think because we do own this land, and no matter what it's worth, 6 or 30 million, we have the control. Let's replat, let's rezone, let's figure out use cases, but let's get that open space that we appreciate. The property doesn't really touch the riparian zones that we're not going to touch anyway. But let's create a space that allows families to learn about what's happening in that riparian zone. on site and then move across the street and take a trail to learn more. I think that's it. Thank you so much, but I think a rezoning and thinking about legacy, you need to be considering the future at the heart of our town and not just how it appeared before. Thanks all.
Thank you for your comments. All right. Anybody else here in boardroom like to give public comment? Now's your chance. All right, I'll turn to Zoom. I'm sorry?
I forgot to say one point. Is that out of order? Sorry.
You come on back and say your piece. I want to give everybody their opportunity to say what they need to say.
Sorry, I'll make it really fast. The other thing I was going to say is that if we had a rec center, we can put a library in it. I know that I think I understood that we've spent about $15 million given to Louisville to be able to use their library, but we could actually put that inside of a recreation building, therefore saving us another $15 million for the future. So,
Thank you for your comments. All right, anybody else here in the boardroom like to give public comment? All right. Turning to Zoom, if you'd like to give public comment via Zoom, please use the raise hand feature, and we'll call on you in the order in which we see your hand raised. First up, Chad Cheek.
Can I restart my time? I'm sorry.
We haven't started.
Chad Cheek, 2415 Andrew Drive. Town 15, everyone's favorite topic. The fact is that we have some very vocal neighbors. That's a direct quote during an opening presentation at the February 4th Planning Commission meeting from the consulting firm hired to help with the 2025 Comprehensive Plan. This meeting goes on to continue with further discouraging statements about the neighbors along the Town 15 boundary. No, we're not suing. I want to dispel that. But we are the very neighbors that lost everything in the Marshall Fire. Neighbors who are living in a construction zone every single day going on 4 years. We are neighbors that would rather just not be here and doing anything else but speaking here tonight. Fast forward to February 10th's presentation to the town council. Our town planner at the time and the paid consultant stated that since the town owns the site, it would be an ideal location for housing. Again, this is the reason we are here today. We collectively attended public comment at both the February 18th Planning Commission meeting and the February 24th Town Council meeting. We collectively expressed that we were not interested in changing the current zoning from Community Activity Center and any recommendation for the comprehensive plan. It's all about the comprehensive plan and the recommendation. To quote Mark Glacis, Mayor Glacis, my apologies, April 14th during the Open Space Town Council joint dinner, if the people of the town of Superior really want Town 15 to be open space, they need to marshal their resources, their efforts, their voice, and make it so. We need to hear from people all the time, showing up to meetings, commenting during public comment, filling up our inbox with something that we cannot ignore. We've had some of this, but it has been insufficient. Mayor Glacis, we heard you. Emails were sent to this council and our planning commission. At the suggestion of Council Member Serbu, after expressing our concerns to him, we wrote this council a joint letter signed by 214 residents requesting to protect this parcel from commercial and or residential development or the recommendation in the comprehensive plan. 70 plus families attended the comprehensive plan open house on May 29th. The chair of the planning commission said to one family in particular that our turnout looked like a conspiracy theory and should be discounted. He supported that in further comments. Another planning commissioner said that they did not appreciate that we watched all of their meetings. We not only felt dismissed, we were dismissed. In another meeting, it was mentioned that the comprehensive plan survey results are being skewed due to Town 15. They're not being skewed. The planning commission simply does not like the feedback that they're receiving. Despite all this, the town staff brought the recommendation to rezone the parcel to open space R. We were so excited but crushed by the 6-2 no vote by the planning commission on June 3rd, a vote that had a planning commissioner on hot mic saying that they were tired of this. Many of us here showed up to the town council public hearing on June 9th, and the town council, after a long evening of waiting, tabled this rezoning application. We recently presented you with a petition with 531 signatures, 5% of Superior's voting base. The petition is signed by residents on Andrew Drive, Ajax Court, Bristol, Daly Lane, Andrew Way, Alpha Court, Eden Circle, Clayton Circle, Eldorado Circle, Campbell Way, Eldorado Lane, Flint Court, Topaz Street, Marble Lane, Tierra Ridge Court, and various pockets in South Rock Creek, North Rock Creek, Calamonte, Sagamore, Old Town, and yes, even in downtown Superior. We have 10 of those. We are grateful that you're listening to us tonight, but respectfully, our support for this rezoning should be considered in combination with the 20 plus years of history of surveys and public comment. Mayor Lasis and town council members, we love you. Is our response sufficient enough yet? We sure hope so. Please vote yes.
Thank you for your comments. Anybody else on Zoom like to give public comment? Now's the time. I don't see any hands raised, so I'm going to close public comment. Going once, going twice. All right, public comment is closed. Thank you all for being here tonight and giving public comment. Any additional questions for staff from public comment or otherwise?
I have a question. I was not aware that the appraisal wasn't shared with the public, and I don't understand why, and I would like to make sure that they know what that is.
So we don't typically release publicly the appraisals on a property for future negotiations if we decide to sell the property at some point in the future. But with that, the council has every right to release the information if that's your decision.
Yeah, the impression I got was if the council wants to disclose what it is, that's fair game. But staff didn't want to force that question and have us potentially compromise our negotiating position in the event that we wanted to market the property for sale at some later date.
I would like to, whatever action we need to take to talk about that openly now, I would like to do that.
Okay. I mean, I think probably you can tell me, but a motion to disclose.
I don't think I mean, you don't really need a motion. You can just go for it. I think that's up to you guys to decide how you want to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, it shouldn't just be one council. If six of us want to keep it confidential, it shouldn't be one council member saying what it is.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's a majority rule system here on the dais. So if the council, and it's currently confidential, so we can disclose it if that's the will of the council.
Is that something we can maybe decide after we decide what we're doing, so that if it is something that would have a bearing on what we do with the property and its marketability, that...
I'm absolutely in favor of telling the people what it's worth. Let's just do it. This is ridiculous. Can we? I'm voting yes. Let's just tell them.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with it either. I mean, it's fine.
Yeah, and I asked a question this morning, so, I was ready to do this as well.
Anybody opposed to disclosing? All right.
I had the same question as Jen, so I appreciate you being the first to ask.
I did not realize. I'm so sorry.
I completely understand, the town's perspective of wanting to keep it confidential in case there's a negotiation, but I think just given
It's a town asset.
It's a town asset, and just given everything that, the passion and enthusiasm that the community has for Town 15, I think we need to.
I've got the numbers up here, Mark. If you,
you do?
Yeah, I mean, there's two, maybe if you guys want to start, right, all right, well,
Yeah, Matt, why don't you
there's
tell
two, there's two options, like there's a $4.4 million value or a $6.56 million value, and there's just a couple of scenarios in terms of how you get to those, but, in my head, it's 5, give or take.
Yeah, so the council, the direction from the council for the appraisal was to get an appraisal based on the current zoning, and then an appraisal based on potential residential zoning. So that's what the two are based off of.
Is it possible for staff to show the appraisal and to just speak to the scenarios so that people understand better? Because I could see some confused faces.
Yeah, I don't have that up right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's 4.43 million as is market value,
Correct.
current
Which is
CAC
CAC
zoning, which is
Yep.
commercial use. And then hypothetical market value zoned medium density residential with a maximum 12 dwelling units per acre would be 6.56 million.
Correct.
It's 97 pages, so I don't know. Can you share them all, please?
I'll just say it was based on these scenarios that were in the packet and in the
the staff memo.
And just for clarification, so we purchased this back in 2012, 2014, 1.2 million?
That's correct.
So based on the appraisal today, it's worth somewhere between 4.4 or 6.5.
That's correct.
Who told us $30 million?
Boulder County, that's their assessed value.
All right. Additional questions for staff?
Thank you.
So
Actually, quick question, because we sort of alluded to this, in terms of if we were to try to use the open space funds, now that we've talked about the number, because otherwise we're just kind of dancing around it, so if you said it was, say, 4.5, it was going to take 10 to 15 years of the open space funds to repay it at that rate. Okay.
The second debt issuance that we used to buy Coyote Ridge doesn't end until 2040.
Right.
At that point.
But I mean, like between now and then, we're generating more open space revenue than
About
the debt services.
$400,000.
Okay, right. So it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
I gotcha. Okay. So 10 years at 400K, give or take, just to replenish what the market value is for the parcel. Perfect. Thank you.
but we don't have the money currently, is the point. So we have like $400,000 on an annual basis. The rest of it goes to service the debt.
That's correct.
It's currently on the books.
Yep, till 2040.
So if we wanted to purchase it for either the 4.4 as is market value or the 6.5, whatever, we have $400,000 available on an annual basis to pay that debt.
And even if we went with the 2012 number, it would still take 3 years to repay that to the general fund.
Right. Okay. All right. Any additional questions from council for staff?
I was kind of thinking about this, and then Neil brought it up, and I was kind of going along these same lines, but a little differently. So if we subdivided the lot, would this, and had part of it be open space, and then part of it stay as the current zoning, to where we're not hamstringing ourselves if down the line we have to be nimble, to Sandy's point. I'm assuming the setbacks and everything would be the same for the current zoning on the portion of the parcel that would be CAC, that would still have the same setbacks.
That's correct.
So essentially just smaller development because of the setbacks
Yep.
and the smaller parcel.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right. Any additional questions for staff? All right. I'll close the public hearing, and why don't we take a 10-minute break, and then we'll come back for discussion.
No, let's do this, please.
Yeah.
It's Rosh Hashanah, we missed it, we're tired, like, please.
Fair enough.
You don't know what you're really. Yes, let's.
Okay. Close the public hearing.
No cliffhangers, man.
All right. Public hearing is closed. Discussion.
I can start with a comment because, and I appreciate all the time that everyone spent both in the June meeting and coming back. But I think one of the things that has fundamentally changed for the comments we received, because in June, a lot of the comments were about this just being open space natural, like open space natural, open space natural. This has been completely turned around for me, and that a lot of people are supportive of open space rec because it isn't about open space natural, right? Like, obviously the OSAC committee wants it to be natural, but the fact that there's a little more daylight here between going from CAC all the way to open space natural gives a little bit more flexibility. Because for me, the Post Master Plan was, a cumulative community effort, and that doesn't get thrown out the window if we go open space rec. So that's just my first comment. I'll probably have more, but the fact is, it's more degrees of freedom than if we'd gone open space natural, out the gate, because then it's basically, that's it. Nothing can be put there, and we have amenity needs on the park side.
Yeah, I'll state a couple things. First off, I want to thank everybody for being here and for weighing in, for all the efforts behind the scenes with the petitions and coming to both public hearings back in June, and then again here tonight, and then also participating with the Planning Commission and all the public input that has been given to us. Obviously, this is very near and dear to everybody's hearts. I understand how everybody feels about this parcel, and they want to make sure that we're doing the right thing by the community. From my perspective, one of the principal considerations as like fiscal stewards of town finances is, to make sure that, we're being responsible when it comes to town assets. So, the real issue is, do we take something that's currently in the general fund and convert that into permanent open space? And if so, how does that work? And what we all know now that it's been made public, is we've got a valuable asset, whether it was worth $1.2 million back in 2012, 2014, and whether it's worth $4 million or $6 million today, or the $30 million that the Boulder County Assessor's Office magically assessed it at, it has value. And if we had any other asset of the town that we were considering disposing of, whether it was a town truck or something like that, we wouldn't just give it away and not take anything. Like, if we didn't need it anymore, we would sell it. We wouldn't just give it to a town employee, say, here's a free pickup truck. Like, it has value. And in order to be responsible stewards of taxpayer assets and dollars, we would sell those assets and reinvest the proceeds. So I think that at a minimum, we owe that same fiduciary obligation here. And if we're talking about taking an asset that currently was purchased with general fund dollars and converting it into open space, regardless of whether it's open space natural or open space rec, I think that there needs to be some payment that needs to be made out of the open space fund for it. But what we're hearing tonight is that we can't use the open space dollars for the open space rec use. So, that kind of complicates the discussion, as Neil alluded to. So, to the extent that there was any part of this land that was going to be open space natural, at a minimum, I would want some sort of purchase agreement with the open space fund where the general fund would be repaid, and then any improvements for the open space rec use would be funded, at least potentially, out of those dollars. Because otherwise, I think we're setting a precedent of using general fund dollars, which we've never used for open space, in a way that's inconsistent with how we've done it in the past. So I'll reserve the rest of my comments, but that's kind of one of my preliminary thoughts here, and kind of curious to hear what everybody else is thinking about that. Anybody?
I think I have comments that are maybe a little bit more broad than that. But before I get into those, I really do want to thank the public for the countless hours that you've put into making your voices heard over the last months, years, decade. This is democracy in action, and I know this has been a very, very long road, and you're looking for a decision so that we can sort of, quote unquote, put this issue to rest. Tonight, we're faced with a choice that in the short term may seem easy, but one that carries lasting consequences for our community's future. The simple decision might be to rezone Town 15 to open space recreational, aligning with the wishes of some, providing a sense of relief to others. But I believe the true purpose of the council is to not take the easy road, but to make the hard decisions. The decisions that may not always be popular, but that will serve the long-term good of our town. This is the decision before us this evening. We live in a town of just 4 square miles, a place that is special because it's a small town charm, its unique character, and the people who make it thrive. Yet within that space, we only have 6 parcels of land that could be developed, and just one of them is owned by the town. Town 15 represents 20% of the non-marketplace acres available for economic development for this town. And it is not just a question of today, but a question of tomorrow. We cannot afford to make a decision based solely on what is easy now. We must look ahead. I have the utmost respect for those living along Andrew Drive and for everything they have endured since the Marshall Fire, and for the voices that have spoken up in the petition and through the 2021 Park Master Plan. Their concerns are valid and their voices matter. Tonight, we also must consider the broader picture. The Iroquois philosophy, which has guided many wise leaders before us, tell us to think not just in the present, but about 7 generations ahead. What we decide today should echo into the future, ensuring that our children and our children's children inherit a town that is sustainable, that is prosperous, and is thriving. In the past, we've faced challenges with vision and resolve, and we are about to spend $17 million of voter-approved funds, a significant sum of money, on projects that will enhance our community. Roughly $10 million of that will be for the rehabilitation of our pools, and approximately $7 million for our roads. These are necessary investments that reflect the immediate needs of our town. But I ask you, does it make sense to add yet another layer of uncertainty to take on a rezoning today that would tie our hands for the future? We cannot predict with certainty what the needs of our town will be in the next 5, 10, 15, or 20 years. And while the notion of a new recreation center is appealing, we must be realistic about our resources. It is unlikely that we will have the capital to develop Town 15 in that way in the foreseeable future. And we should not make a decision today that could limit the options of future councils when they are faced with challenges we cannot foresee. In 2018, the Board of Trustees rejected a development proposal because they believed it was not the right time or the right fit for the property. This council has that same responsibility to make decisions in the best interest of our town at this moment in time. And the best decision we can make tonight is to preserve that flexibility. By maintaining the current zoning of Town 15, we give ourselves and future councils the ability to respond to needs as they arise without the constraints of an irreversible decision. This, my friends, is the heart of leadership. It is not the easy path that we take, but the one that demands foresight, courage, and wisdom. And tonight, I do not see a compelling reason to rezone Town 15. I will cast my vote in favor of preserving the current zoning because I believe it's in the best interest of our town, not just today, but for generations to come.
Thanks, Mike. Others? Thoughts? I did want to ask just the council if anybody had any thoughts about this idea of there was a suggestion made during public comment from a couple of commenters about the idea that under our current charter now, that if land is rezoned as open space, that then it has the option of going back to the voters if the voters wanted to change it. Is that the case for open space rec and open space natural, or just one?
The charter doesn't specify, so I don't want to make that call right here, right now. I'd rather, if and when that happened, to discuss it. So for now, I would assume the more arduous path.
Does anybody have any thoughts about that in one way or the other? I mean, my personal opinion is that once it's zoned open space, that there's very little chance that the voters would change that. But right. No, which I understand. But I'm asking the council if they agree with that. Yeah.
That's right. Of your voters, then you're not making the right decision. Yeah, I mean.
All right, this is council discussion. We need to maintain order here, please. Okay.
I'll go. And I came in tonight very torn as I am right now. I was the one that seconded bringing this forward because I figured it's what residents have said they wanted. Let's just go ahead and get it done. We're also right in the middle of budget season, so I'm very cognizant of our finances. Being the banker up here, I'm always cognizant of the finances, but it's hyper cognizant of it right now. I'm going to echo everybody just saying thank you for the feedback, and I know you've been giving feedback. Thank you. We listen to every bit of it. When I'm typing up here while you guys are talking, I'm taking diligent notes because I refer back to it, so I don't think I'm being rude. I'm trying to capture everything you guys are saying. And also getting a lot of emails. We had sub-public comment that talked about being against the rezoning tonight. We had a ton of emails about that. So some things that you guys don't see, but we do get a lot of emails on both sides. So it makes the decision really tough because you're not going to make everybody happy. You know, we are here to represent your interests, and we're also here to be financial stewards. And I take that very, very seriously. To Mike's point, you've got to look into the future. So I love all the amenities and adding fields, and there's needs for pickleball, and I love it all. I think that looks awesome. I would love to use that myself. I'm also hyper cognizant that we just had to do a sales tax increase for $17 million to attempt to chip away at the massive amount of capital improvement projects that we have just to maintain what we currently have. So if money was no object, I mean, I would want all of that. But we need to also maintain what we currently have, and we don't even have money for that. So, and to Mark's point, doesn't sound like we'll have open space funds to reimburse for that anytime soon. I don't think there's a solution that really makes everybody happy. There never is, which is why it's very difficult to be up here. I would be open to exploring looking at subdividing the lot and maybe looking at making part of that open space natural or rec so that we can still have some of that open space, protect those corridors, the wildlife corridors, the views, but also leaving at least half, if not, 2/3 of that parcel open to the CAC zoning that we have right now, just so we're not hamstringing ourselves later. Being in the finance committee meetings, there's a lot that we need to be forward planning on, and a lot that I did not realize as a resident. I mean, there's some red flags for me that I'm a little concerned about, and want to make sure that we're not being penny wise and pound foolish, and not to say, you can't put a price on views and open space, and just the peace of mind that, the reason I live here is open space, so I 1000% agree with that. But also don't want to make it burdensome for residents later if we have the things that we've seen in finance coming down the pike, and not having available assets and funds to fund those. I don't want to put that on our residents either, to where everybody's so burdened with taxes and fees and rate increases that it's difficult to live here and enjoy the open space because you've got no money to buy rec equipment. So I don't know. I would be very interested in looking at subdividing the lots so we can kind of get the best of both worlds. But yeah, I guess that's my feedback for now. I don't know that really helps, but that's kind of where I'm at.
I think my biggest takeaway from the information that we received for this meeting since the last time we talked about this was that of all of the opportunity areas in town that could be economic drivers, Town 15 wasn't even on the short list. And so people that keep talking about it as being like this economic boon for development that's going to be our savings, our pocketbook for later, the limitations on what you could even do with it if you develop it do not add up to anything near what other areas for redevelopment or development could bring for the town. And so I just want to, for the folks that are calling this a financial stray from our duties, look at the numbers and actually look at the economic drivers and the opportunity areas, and Town 15 is not it. So, and for those that say that we have too much open space, I understand that we have a lot. We have more than most places have, but all of the data in every survey shows that it is the highest driver of what people here want, and no one's asking for less of it. And so it's hard to consider that as I think that there's been a lot of ask for the continuity from community park across all the way through into the Boulder County open space, and that makes a lot of sense. Just as continuity aspect of it. I think the thing that's hard to quantify is the human side of this, and consistently over time, the surveys, the community outreach, and now petitions from what I would call a master class in community outreach by the residents. They continue to tell us what they want, and they do not want this parcel developed. So I am for rezoning the property, and I'm open to some options of whether we subdivide it or creative ways to figure out how to fund this. But there is nothing, we're here to serve the residents. The residents have been telling people for a decade, we got to figure this out, how to give them what they want, and also ensure that we find the financial solution to this, and it isn't to tell them no. So I also, I think one of the hardest things about this process has been the behavior of some of the residents towards the proponents of this rezoning. Some of the residents mention this, but I just want to point out, residents, while they're still in full recovery mode from the Marshall Fire, organized, got signatures, rallied efforts to ensure this council understood the broad neighborhoods in Superior support this rezoning, and not just those that border Town 15. And in that process, people, some of them appointed volunteers for the town, were actually villainizing them, name calling, and suggesting that they were a litigious group live during meetings because they were advocating to protect this space. It was very disappointing to see. And I'm sorry for all of you that had to carry that and hear that out in the community. In a climate of continuously plummeting standards of humanity right now, I would just ask that, especially anybody who's in the capacity for doing work for this town, that we do better. So, yeah, I think that's it.
Thanks, Jen. Others who haven't spoken so far?
So I'll go. Excuse me. Yeah, thank you all for coming. It's been a very long process. Marshall Fire, lost my house in that. And I remember back at the time I spoke to a lot of you residents on Andrew Drive about how to go through the process, not necessarily what to do, but how to entertain hiring a contractor. What are you looking at prices? What's your time frame looking at? And I walked you guys through a lot of conversations. That's how I met Chad and Tricia, fantastic people. To this day, I'm still trying to get Chad to run up here, be a council member. I think he'd be great at it, honestly, because this is not an easy job. It really isn't. We get $900 a month. After taxes, you might bring home $800, and you're going to put in at least 20 hours a week on top of whatever job you have right now. So it's a bit of a challenge. But, I ran at the last election, and I met with quite a few of you, and yes, my words were, I am in no rush, and I do not want to see Town 15 developed, but I also said, and believe me what I said, because I said I am against it going open space. It's interesting that when I say both of these things, it's conveniently forgotten that I'm against the open space for this. Now, let me explain why I'm against that. And I think going down the road of creating open space for this is not in the fiscal best interest of the town going forward. A couple of emails were complaints about you're going to make commercial retail on this, you're going to make office space, you're going to do this or that. Commercials should never go on Town 15 for the simple reason is that we are struggling right now to keep our three major areas afloat: Brixmore, downtown, and the Safeway Center. We need to focus here. We cannot allow us to dilute commercial or retail by creating another area for it, which is just going to be, it's going to bleed the areas dry. People are struggling right now, especially in the downtown area where it's very, very expensive to do commercial and retail space. We have to focus on these three areas. Office space, we have the Discovery Park office area. We still have a few pads left that are not developed yet. Office space can go there. Recreation. If we put recreation in this area, we are directly competing with Lifetime Fitness, with the Louisville Community Center, and with the 3 or 4 fitness centers in town, the 2 yoga studios, and the 1 Pilates. I don't want to see competition with existing businesses that are trying to make an investment in our town going forward. So what does that leave? Possibly it leaves residential. Possibly it leaves what the Planning Commission has been talking about in their packet. But to be honest with you, I kind of scratch my head as why we're even talking about this right now. I was completely fine just leaving it the way it was, not even bringing this up, leaving it as CAC, and letting you guys have the park-like atmosphere you have. But now that it is open and it's brought to the public, the cat's out of the bag, and we have to talk about other uses that can be used for Town 15. And one of those can be residential. So we've got the 76th Avenue property, which is currently being looked at by a developer right now. The Resolute property, and the developer wants to do mixed use with commercial, residential. Hopefully we can get some affordable housing out of it and a hotel. And that leaves basically the two prime real estate properties of Zaharias and Town 15. Now, to go back, yes, I had a town meeting with the senior residents here to talk about what it would look like to bring 55 and up housing here. Because if you're not aware, about a quarter of our population right now is 55 plus. We have a large number of people who moved here at the beginning of Rock Creek, bought in, invested here, sent their kids to the schools, paid their taxes, and there's nowhere for them to go. Now, Town 15 wasn't part of that conversation, but residents wanted to talk about Town 15 as part of that conversation. All I was simply saying was if we had properties the size of 5, 10, 15, 20 acres, what could it look like if we were to try to invest in 55 housing? That is a need we didn't foresee 5 or 10 years ago. That is a new thing that we are going to have to start taking a look at. Now, I'm not saying we have to make sure that either Town 15 gets residential or we leave Town 15 alone, but look at it from a supply and demand perspective. If the only two properties left in this town to be developed is Zaharias and Town 15, and Zaharias is privately owned, what do you think the guy who owns Zaharias right now is hoping we're going to vote? He's going to want us to go open space because his property just doubled in value. He is going to be able to do and sell his property for whatever we want. So whatever uses, to Councilmember Foster's point, we have to try to see that we can approximate or come across or try to solve in the future. We're going to have one shot, and that's privately owned, and that person can say and do whatever price they want. Now, let's say a developer comes in because Town 15 is now open space rec. And that developer says, okay, we're going to do senior housing, we're going to do affordable housing, we're going to do whatever the town of Superior desperately needs because we haven't been able to do that. How do you think they're going to go about doing that? They are going to rake us over the coals. I've worked with developers. Developers are completely driven on how much revenue they get from their product, how much profit. It's all profit-based, that's all it is. It's not good or bad, it's not that they're being good people or bad people, it's a profit-driven industry. So they want to build any type of housing there. You know, the town of Superior, we would love it if you would give us the tap fees for free. Don't charge us for tap fees. What do we say to that? We start haggling, we start losing ground, we give them something off on the tap fees, we lose money there. Now they come back and they say, you know what, permit fees, we don't like your permit schedule, we want that cut in half. What choice do we have at that point? We've got no leverage, we've got no other land that we leverage it with. It's like the developers say, you've got Zaharias and that's it. And then you're SOL. So I'm still not in a rush to develop Zaharias, like I said before the election, but I don't think open space in any way, shape, or form helps us. Now, to answer the one gentleman's question, the teacher, is he still here? Okay. You said about what if we put it on the ballot? Yeah, that could happen in the future. We could put that on the ballot. But think about the way that the political climate is going right now, with the lack of housing in this country right now, with the demand that we meet what the state is implementing or trying to implement. We went home rule because we don't want the state to tell us what to do. We want to have control of our own destiny as a town. But what's to say things aren't going to change in the future where the state starts telling us, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to add, what was it, number, Neil, it was like 40,000 residents was the number they were talking about, the state projected, some ridiculous number we cannot do unless we build vertically. So let's say the state does that and they bring it to a vote. The other side of the argument is bringing that to a vote and letting it in the hands of the residents. What if in the future the political climate changes to such an extent that now every single person is going to want as much open space taken back and developed for residences of whatever stripe, affordable, market rate, below market rate, senior housing? What's the development picture going to look like then? It can go either way. And for what I'm looking right now in other parts of the country, that's the way things are leaning. I just think, I don't want to see this land developed right now. I'd rather we just leave it the way it is. I was all in favor of doing that, but this came up and this created a massive firestorm of neighbor versus neighbor because I've heard both sides of it. We've gotten emails. I got yelled at in the supermarket the other day. I had one gentleman when I was giving my 55 up presentation accusing me that I'm working with developers and I'm trying to angle this so I can get paid. Pisses me off. I'm sorry. It really, really does. I don't want to see that level of rhetoric continue in our town, and I would love the fact if we could come together in a more holistic way and understand we have differences. Yeah, we do. I appreciate the fact that you guys are still pushing for what you want with this area, and like Chad said, I was a huge proponent for you pushing for that. I told you guys, keep sending emails, get the petition going. I created the petition for the downtown area to stop the development of the health sciences because it wasn't what we needed. I'm all for public outreach and all for you guys using your voices and telling us what you want. But this is a representative democracy. We have to do what we think is best for the entirety of the people who elected us. And I just feel like going open space in any way, shape, or form on this is going to handcuff future councils to make decisions they don't want to make or they can't afford to make. Yeah, we just raised the pools by $600,000 because we're over budget on that. Where are we going to keep getting the money? We will one day have to raise taxes. That is almost a certainty in my mind. And how we do that, I don't know. But the last thing we want to do is tell Costco, hey, sales tax is going up. And they decide, yeah, you know what, maybe Lafayette would be a better answer for us to go, or Target. And we've got King Soopers across the way I'm worried about right now because when they open next summer, Target's on the hook for them and so is Whole Food. And that is a really big economic driver for us as well. So I just want to pump the brakes on this and look out for what is fiscally and financially the best thing for this town. And I just have to, I respectfully disagree. Zoning it for open space, either R or N, is not in our best interest. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Jason.
I'll try and be brief. So I appreciate all the comments that were made today, and I do value everyone's opinions. This had to come out for a second time. And as Jason alluded to, some of us have been here on the dais and have been doing everything possible to help everybody on AAB come back after the Marshall fire. The Cheeks were the first couple I met, after the fire, and then, I remember walking the streets with them and getting Homebound up and running. So it's been important to me that we have the right conversation here, and holding this over from June to make sure they actually had the right information. Like the packet in June, I think, was deficient on the information, and now we have some of that right information. And one of those was the value of the property. A lot of people were looking at the $1.2 million we paid in 2012 as, that's it. We can just rezone it natural, open space natural, and it's effectively free. And I think we've moved on from that conversation, which is good. I don't know that OSAC has, but nevertheless, some of the reason we're all here seems to be rooted in comments made by staff during the comprehensive plan. I was a board rep to Park when the community worked very hard to put the PROS master plan together. A lot of work went into that process, and I was satisfied with the output. But then to have staff pivot and potentially suggest Town 15 could be a site for affordable housing rightfully had everyone concerned. Realistically, that comment should have been couched that any change of that nature would have still required a substantial quasi-judicial process, much what we're going through right now. Nevertheless, just as we're working through a comprehensive plan, any suggestions of what Town 15 could or should be is only that, a suggestion. Anything would have to continue to go through that robust quasi-judicial process for a rezone. And that comment rightfully had a lot of people concerned because it seemed like it suddenly jumped the shark and got over the process. This board has not even had a conversation about why we would want to suddenly deviate from the PROS master plan. That just came out of nowhere. Everyone has heard my own frustration from the sudden pivot by OSAC on what was a combined joint statement between OSAC and Park on what the development was going to be with the PROS master plan. But then OSAC pivoted, and all of a sudden they wanted it to be open space natural. When that master plan was developed, a needs analysis was completed relative to what amenities we have and where the deficiencies lie. And you already heard me mention that. Some of those have been addressed in downtown, but we still need a second baseball diamond, 4 more pickleball courses, so on and so forth. But making a decision today only weighs part of how, but making a decision on that only weighs how we, this doesn't make any sense, sorry. Where I'm trying to go is if we wanted to try to split the parcel, open space natural, open space rec, that's a half decision right now, which I don't think we're ready to make. I think we can make a decision to potentially pursue a combination of some park amenities with the open space natural. However, beyond all that, I haven't seen anything that suggests we have to make a decision right now. No board in the last 15 years has seen any reason to make this residential development, and I don't anticipate that happening anytime soon. Maintaining the land as CAC actually allows us the many degrees of freedom to set our own destiny on what we want to do with the space. I think we need to have that conversation about how we could potentially support park amenities and offset that with open space funding. But again, maintaining it as CAC may not be a popular decision in this room, but it does give us the ability to manage that development in a manner consistent with what the community wanted when we bought this space in 2012. But let's make that decision in concert with how we fund the development. So if we wanted to make create park amenities, how are we going to pay for them? Is that, bifurcate the parcel, pay ourselves back from the open space tax to do so, then we can do that. Otherwise, we'll be stuck staring at the same parcel undeveloped for another 13 years. So I'm not in support of rezoning it today. I'd like to keep it as CAC. I do believe that it could survive. It could actually function great as a park amenity, much as the proposed master plan outlined, and I think we could potentially use the open space funds to get there. We just don't have that nailed down today, and I'd be reticent to sort of support a rezone without knowing exactly how all that would be developed. I think, Stephanie, to your point, splitting it, maybe open space natural and CAC, another great option, but not one that I'm ready to try to figure out now because I don't know where the line gets drawn. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Thanks, Neil. Heather, you ready?
A lot of comments have already been made, but spent the weekend reading through notes from public comments like Council Member Miller. I take a lot of notes as well. So public comments over the past spring and summer meetings, as well as the many, many emails that we've gotten over time. Also, historical have been in the room for a lot of these conversations. So appreciate the many residents that have shared both their opinions of rezone or not. Appreciate the boards prior to us that have had the thoughtfulness in this property as a strategic piece of land in the town of Superior's portfolio. My question is what's prudent for the town. I do have a very high priority for economic vitality, and we can either see this as a vital piece of property when it comes to our economic development, or we can look at it differently. But I'm not sure I'm at the position right now to make that decision. I really believe rezoning this removes the flexibility to the town for that future. I wish we had a crystal ball. We don't. I really, for the best use in the future to stay flexible, I'm going to vote to maintain the current zoning.
Thanks, Heather. Anybody else want to say anything? We've got a couple additional, comments just for the public. So, where my head's at is I certainly understand why everybody wants it to be open space. If I lived there, I'd want it to be open space as well. I think it's important for us to consider the intent of the town board, now the town council, back when we acquired this land. And when the town council acquired this land back in 2012, 2014, whenever it was, 2014, according to Sandy Pennington, they could have rezoned this parcel then to open space, but they didn't. But on the flip side, they also purchased this to give us flexibility. As former Mayor Pro Tem and a former trustee Pennington explained, there was opposition to housing proposals on that parcel, and the town acquired it as a valuable asset to give us the flexibility to grow into the town that we're ultimately going to be one day, right? CAC zoning, like the main concern that I'm hearing from people tonight, the main concern that I've heard over the past several months in terms of the emails that we've received has been generally, opposition to, additional housing because of the impacts of traffic, the impacts on views, additional density, things like that. The CAC zoning as it currently sits does not permit housing. So the status quo as is does not allow housing. There are no current plans to put housing on the Town 15, and in the event that there ever were, that would require rezoning from the town and another land use hearing where we would actually have to consider a rezoning from CAC to some sort of residential zone to allow that use. which would be in a public process. The Planning Commission would be involved, the town council will be involved. The public would have the opportunity to participate in that process. So in terms of, preserving what we've got and not wrecking it, sure, like designating it as open space does that, but so does keeping the CAC zoning because there are no plans to improve it. But the town has used that parcel and it's been valuable. It was, used after the Marshall Fire as a staging ground for the recovery efforts. We had the contractor that was helping with the debris removal was using that site, and we used it during the pandemic. We had a town event on the Town 15, and then we obviously use it for Chili Fest and events for parking. So it certainly has had flexibility. But we do know that there is a shortage of housing in Boulder County. We're hearing from our schools about declining enrollment and the challenges that the schools are facing in terms of, how can we keep our schools actually open here in Superior if we don't have enough students that are able to actually go there, and you need houses to live in order to do that. So I'm not suggesting that we put housing there, but these decisions aren't made in a vacuum, and any decision that we make that removes a parcel from potentially being housing just makes it that much more difficult for us to satisfy the housing needs that aren't just in Superior, but are in Colorado as a whole along the Front Range. And our school district is at 2/3 enrollment right now because it's too expensive for people to live in Boulder County. And that's going to ultimately impact housing values in this area if kids can't grow up in this community because it's too expensive. But be that as it may, my main concern right now is this is a valuable asset, and if we dispose of it without appropriate compensation, I think that is really a financially reckless act, and I'm not in support of that. So, and that's basically what's on the table for us tonight, because we don't have a purchase agreement or any sort of deal structured where there would be a repayment from the open space fund to fund any portion of it. So to Neil's point, because we're not dividing what the line is tonight to figure out what the repayment is, I'm not going to support the rezoning tonight as it is. I'm open to additional conversations in the future to the extent that it does have some sort of framework, but I think it's in the best interest of the community as a whole to preserve the zoning as CAC for the time being. Anybody else? All right.
I'm just curious. So what does it look like then to give staff direction to find out what that could look like for whether it's subdividing it, where the funds could come from, like that second piece of it that you're not comfortable with voting on it tonight because you need whatever that is. What does that look like?
Well, I think what we would need to do is put it on an agenda for us to discuss what the Prost master plan from 2021 looks like and what the comprehensive plan looks like, and if there's any sort of workable solution that would have the Town 15 essentially split in some way that the majority of the town council get behind. So I think that it's a work session topic for a future date.
Matt, do you know if the open space funds, because obviously we have the repayment for Coyote Ridge, is there excess each year beyond what we're paying on the loan? And do you know how much that is by chance?
It's approximately $400,000.
Extra after the repayment?
And that depends on what projects are budgeted each year. We have a large purchase next year, so there's no funds available next year, but in 27, that 400,000 is there.
Is there any, because I believe some of those funds can be used for maintaining the open space, and then I think rangers, and I know that we're looking at hiring another, I can't remember if it's
That's in
part-time
the
or full-time.
proposed budget, that's correct.
Is that coming out of general fund, or is that coming out of open space funds?
Open space.
Okay.
All right, any further discussion?
So just a comment. So based on the question that Jen just asked and some of the feedback that the mayor provided, Matt, I think our next quarterly work session is in December. Would that provide staff enough time to pull together the pieces that have been discussed tonight to have that conversation, or were you thinking?
I need to discuss with staff.
Okay. All right. Again, I'm just trying to give a realistic sense of timeline because, I want this to be a thorough and in-depth analysis and not something that's rushed. So if it's going to take 6 months to have internal staff conversations and do the analysis, then I want to make sure that you have the space to do that and don't feel like you have to bring it back in October.
We don't need to arbitrarily set it for that date, so we take the time, and I think to the extent that we've got a comp plan update as well, that can get factored into it. All right, you want to make a motion? No? All right, I will make a motion then. And I don't have it before me. I'll make that's the Planning Commission resolution. All right. I'll make a motion to approve Town of Superior Ordinance number O-16, Series 2025, an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Superior amending the Rock Creek Ranch Plan Development to remove town-owned property from the Rock Creek Ranch Plan Development and rezone the property from PD Plan Development to OSR Open Space and Recreation, Town 15.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion from Mayor Lasis, second from Councilmember Cowish. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Craycraft?
No.
Councilmember Miller?
No.
Councilmember Foster?
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Serbu?
No.
Mayor Lasis?
No.
Councilmember Shaw?
No.
Councilmember Cowish?
Yes.
All right, the motion fails 1-6. All right, why don't we take 10 minutes? We'll be in recess. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. All right, we're back from break. We're on to item number 6, which is consideration of resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Superior approving the South Pool design contract. Thank you to staff for being patient and staying here late.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So we are here to talk about the South Pool design fee. So as everyone kind of knows, South Pool is also in need of renovation, much like North Pool. This facility was built in 2000 and it's had kind of intermittent, I don't know, fixes to things that along the way since.
Band-Aids and bailing tape.
And so it's really in need of a full renovation at this time. So staff is recommending that we go with BRS, who is the design firm for the South Pool. BRS also performed the public engagement back in like March, April. So they're familiar with the community and their wants and needs. And they also performed the assessment for South Pool right after that time, right before we got started. So they're really familiar with the facility, familiar with staff, familiar with council. So our recommendation is to go with them. I think this, there are opportunities in this design for updating the restrooms in the bathhouse, the showers, storage, always a hot commodity, guard areas, and then also make some of the amenities better. We had got a lot of comments from the community about wanting a new slide and some more up-to-date amenities since the year 2000. So I think there are opportunities for that. The design fee, if approved, BRS could start the design the first week of October. And then what we're thinking is design would go from October through the end of February, maybe early March. That's kind of like the ideal timeframe for the design. That's what we currently have scheduled. Obviously, there's room for, we'll see how the process goes. And then the budget implications for this, the design fee is about $380,000. And then currently that would leave us with almost 3.4 million for the construction piece of it. So the total overall is 3.77. And I did want to point out a couple things. There are some assumptions that BRS made in this design fee kind of based on that budget, which is obviously a little less than our budget for South Pool, or sorry, for North Pool. So they are excluding things like the new mechanical building that we're putting at North Pool, that something like that would not be included in this current scope for the design fees. This would be based on the existing size of the pool, like that not changing. And then things like a hot tub, a separate diving well, kind of like these above and beyond items that we've talked about in the past, those would come with some additional fees if that is the direction that we end up going. So I just wanted to make sure that was understood, that those aren't included in this fee at this time.
Can I just ask a question, Jordan?
Yes.
Thank you
Yep.
for all of your work on both of these projects. The budget, and we talked about this during the budget meeting, but so the budget right now of 3.4 for construction, like how did we come up with that dollar amount?
I think that came up during the budget process with staff. I don't know if Matt could speak more to that.
Yeah, it was discussions between staff, Leslie, myself, Jeff, on what we thought the estimated cost would be based on the needs for that facility. They're going back, they had a meeting today, I think, or this week, to talk about budget, and we're going to make adjustments based on any additional costs we think might be associated with that project. And you'll see that when it comes to you for the October 13th meeting.
Was it basically that was what was left of the bond proceeds in terms of like, did that play into coming up with that dollar amount?
That was part of the discussion, yep.
Okay. I mean, I guess my main thought is like, I want us to just do these pools right once and for all.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can get that done for $3.4 million, great. But if not, I don't want the bond proceeds to be an arbitrary cap on the project. So if that means that we extinguish the total amount of bond proceeds and then just start paying for it out of the ordinary CIP budget and we plan for it that way, I would much rather us just do this pool right. We don't need to do anything crazy, but I just don't want us to shortchange the community and say, well, like, we only had $3.4 million left from the bond proceeds, because at the end of the day, like, what we actually use the bond proceeds for, it was all just one pool of money anyway. We're advancing CIP projects. Those ordinarily are just funded out of the CIP budget. So if in order to do this project right, it's going to cost $5 million, something kind of similar to what the North Pool is like, I'm not, averse to that. So as long as we have the flexibility, I'm happy with BRS. I think that they were really responsive to the community and happy moving forward with them. My ask for them going forward on this project is to be a little more clear on telling us what we should do, rather than just trying to make everybody happy and say yes to everything and then Frankenstein the project in a way that doesn't work. So I want a project that like actually makes sense, meets the desires of most of the community. But if at the end of the day they say like a diving well is not going to work because that's $1 million, don't put it in the recommendation, right? But if they say like, a hot tub actually is something that a lot of people want and that's going to cost an extra $200,000, like, okay, like, let's figure that out. But also if they think that like gutting the pool and redesigning it is something that we should consider, like, I'm not necessarily wedded to the current shell, but I also have no idea what it would cost to do something that would like re-envision the entirety of the pool. But I'd like that to at least be an option on the table for us to consider, because like if that is something that ends up being like, oh, that's a $15 million pool, like that's a different consideration. But if it's an option that we can consider and we can do something really spectacular, I don't want us to just kind of be forced into the current design just because it's there. So flexibility is the long and short of that.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you.
One thing I'll tack on to that I think came up during the North Pool design is there were certain things that the community wanted that they were very outspoken about, that either fiscally was just a non-starter, or just being able to function, like the hot tub, for instance, which I was going to be super psyched about. But hearing from staff that is like non-starter, half the time they don't function, like nightmare to keep going, that's great. And to Mark's point, like, don't include it, but also maybe make a note of like, we heard a lot from the community that they want a diving well. We didn't put it in the design because it's this much money and it blows the budget out of the water. Like, that would just be good, so that when residents are like, we told you we wanted this and where is it, we can point to that and say, well, this is why we're not doing that, just so we are transparent and aware of why we're not doing things too.
Okay.
Others?
My only comment is, I know we are, our goal is to bid out both North and South Pool March of next year. And I know at the work session that we talked about a couple of different options if the South Pool design wasn't quite right. So I just want to echo that, yes, well, I think that is our North Star. If the timing just isn't working out, let's go ahead and bid out the North Pool so we can get that done, and we'll bid South Pool out when it's ready to be bid out. So again, getting back to the mayor's point, flexibility. And just sort of a lesson learned for me on the North Pool design and some of the sustainability elements that I was asking to see more about. If the consultant can be a little bit more transparent and clear in what sustainability features are getting incorporated, would be really helpful for me.
Great. And just a note on sustainability. So For North Pool, we didn't really have a specific group, a specific subcontractor for that. So they got added later, a little later in the process. So this time they were proactive about it and they're already in the design fee. So they'll be involved from the very beginning. So I think that'll help us.
Great, thank you. And to that end, so I appreciate you bringing that up. Just in terms of planning and being like prudent at the get-go, if there's any of the sustainability options that are on the table that are or are not like their recommendations, right? Like if they wanted to go all, like we had the conversation about going all electric and whatnot and using the solar heating, like the options for what's feasible, what's not feasible, what's their professional recommendation, and give us the details on why or why not. You know, these things have been used at, 80 municipal pools around the country, so they're totally safe and going to work. These ones are new technology, haven't been tested, so they're not making a recommendation or whatever it is. It would be good to have that information earlier on in the budgeting process and planning process, so we can make an informed decision about it, because we should try to meet as many sustainability goals as possible, because these are energy suckers, right? They use a lot of energy to heat those pools, so we want to make sure that we're being sustainable.
Okay.
Any additional questions for staff? Anybody in the public like to give public comment on item 6? Well, we got 4 people on Zoom. All right, seeing none, public comment is closed, and entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
All right, we've got a motion to approve Town of Superior Resolution Number R-73. I'm doing the hard work for you. Series 2025.
You the man, Mark, you the man.
Town Council of the Town of Superior approving a professional services agreement with Barker Rinker CCAT Architecture for the design of the South Pool. A motion from Mayor Pro Tem Serbu, second from Councilmember Foster. Roll call vote, please.
Mayor Lasis,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Serbu,
Yes.
Councilmember Cowish,
Yes.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Councilmember Shaw,
Yes.
Councilmember Foster,
Yes.
Councilmember Craycraft.
Yes.
All right, passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing all the plans.
Me too.
Anything further for the benefit of the group? All right, we are adjourned at 9:03.